My husband doesn't see how his work wife is trying to destroy our marriage. I, 31F, am at my wit's end with my husband's, 32M, coworker Sarah, 30F, and his complete inability to see what's happening. I'm not usually one for Reddit, but I need to know if I'm going crazy here. Where do I even start? 3 years ago, my husband Mark started working with Sarah. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I invited her to our BBQs, included her in group outings, and genuinely tried to be friendly. Big mistake. She spent the entire time making backhanded comments about everything from my career. Oh, you're just a yoga instructor. How peaceful. To my cooking, I guess not everyone can master basic seasoning. The real problem is that Mark thinks she's just being funny. Last month, she literally threw away the anniversary mug I gave him because it clashed with the office aesthetic. When I got upset, Mark said I was being too sensitive and that Sarah just has high standards for office decor. It was a mug with our wedding photo on it. Some greatest hits from Sarah. She scheduled a mandatory work dinner on our anniversary. She convinced Mark not to take a promotion because it would mean working with a different team. She posts daily photos of them together with hashtags like work power couple and work spouse. She tells everyone at their office that she takes better care of him than I do. She changed his coffee order and now tells everyone she trained him right. The worst part? My husband is completely blind to all of this. Yesterday, he actually told me about how Sarah said our new house, which we spent months searching for, was charming, in a starter home kind of way. He repeated this while laughing. I tried talking to him about it, but Sarah has convinced him I'm just insecure. She's managed to insert herself into every aspect of our lives. They text constantly, even on weekends. She knows his schedule better than I do. She rearranged his entire desk and office wardrobe because his style was too suburban husband. That's what he is. Last week, I suggested marriage counseling. He looked genuinely confused. He of course went and talked to Sarah about it. I found out from another coworker that she's been telling people that Mark and I are going through a rough patch and that she's just being a good friend by giving him someone to talk to. We weren't going through anything until she started this nonsense. The breaking point? I stopped by his office to surprise him with lunch. I know, but it was his birthday and Sarah was supposedly out sick. Guess who was there? Sarah. She'd miraculously recovered and bought him a cake that said, "To my work hubby," with a photo of them from the office holiday party. She saw me and said, "Oh, Amy, you came too, how nice." Mark, you didn't tell me your real wife was coming. I'm not crazy, right? This woman is trying to destroy my marriage while my husband stands there grinning like it's all some big joke. What do I do? Divorce seems extreme, but I'm running out of options here. TLDR. My husband's work wife is actively trying to sabotage our marriage while he remains completely oblivious to her obvious manipulation. ETA, I should have stated that the promotion wasn't one that would increase his salary but his title. It would give him more leadership experience. It still blows my mind that he turned it down just so he could stay on the same team as her. ETA, I should have told the mug story in its entirety. She accidentally broke the mug. I noticed it was gone when I was visiting him one day and I asked him about it. He said she accidentally knocked it over and then later he repeated a joke she made about how it didn't fit the office aesthetic. Top comments. Commenter 1. Sarah would not be able to sabotage your marriage if your husband wasn't allowing it. Commenter 2. You have a husband problem. Go to counseling and get professional help to communicate your concerns. Remind him that he's married to you, not Sarah, so her opinions shouldn't matter when it comes to your marriage. Good luck, but be prepared for the worst. Commenter 3. Yeah, this guy isn't oblivious, he's complicit. He knows what's happening, and he likes the attention. He is happy to let his GF disrespect his wife. Update. Hi. I, 31F, posted a few days ago. I really didn't expect my post to blow up the way it did. I got so overwhelmed by all the comments that I haven't responded to any. I want to address everyone who says it's fake. I understand why you think that, but this is my personal hell. I only listen to Reddit stories on TikTok, but when this reached its boiling point, I just needed a place to talk. So I made an account and tried to yell into the void. Well, the void turned out to be less empty than I thought. Now, to why everyone is here, the update. Before I talked to my husband, 32M, I decided to do some investigation. I started with his phone and read all the messages between him and Sarah. She badmouthed me a few times, he did nothing to defend me but didn't engage either. She was flirty, he wasn't really flirty back. They talked a lot, and he praised her frequently for her work ethic and intelligence. I didn't see anything about cheating. I checked his email, nothing. I checked his work email, nothing. I looked through our other devices, nothing. I searched high and low for a second phone, nothing. Everything I found was always dancing that line. Nothing was outright cheating, but here are the things I found that did hurt my feelings. He has lunch with her, and only her, every day in the office. They don't really like anyone else, so they'll criticize others and say, let's talk more at lunch, they're serving XYZ today. He'd say things like, I'm sure if you were a wife, you would XYZ. He always kept it as, a wife and not, my wife, but it still upset me. She admitted to breaking the mug on purpose. He didn't get upset with her, just said, yeah, the photo gifs are kind of corny. I confronted him. I laid it all out, and while he wasn't upset, he did try to brush things off. He said I was being sensitive and overreacting. I told him if we didn't have a real conversation about this, I would file for divorce. That got his attention, and he sat down with me. He admitted that at first, he found it odd that Sarah was trying so hard. He saw her trying hard with all the men in the office. The more attention she gave him, the more he enjoyed it, and the more he responded, the more attention she gave, until she just had her sights on him. He knew some of the other men were envious, and he liked that too. He admitted that eventually, he just got too deep. He said he knew it was wrong but had gotten addicted to the attention and didn't want her to move on to another man. So he indulged her sometimes at my expense. He said it was just nice to have two women in the two major parts of his life, stating that he knew we'd rarely see one another, so what was the harm? He reiterated that he never ever physically cheated with her but admitted it could be called an emotional affair. It was painful, I won't hide that. I mean really painful, like I wasn't enough. I told him from this point on, he needed to stop communicating with Sarah and ask to be transferred or switch jobs altogether. Now folks, I mean it when I tell you this, he lost his shit. He began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated, it was all above board, and I couldn't control who he talked with at work. He called me a narcissist and a control freak. He told me I had no idea how hard it was, how much stress he had in the office, and that his personal relationship with Sarah helps a lot, taking it away would just damage his mental health. It got so bad that I started crying. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to leave. I packed a small bag and called my MIL, she's the only family I have here. I gave her a rundown of what was going on, and she offered her home to me. I'm staying here and just hoping my husband calms down so we can revisit this. I want to work it out, I love him more than anything. I will try harder to answer comments on this post, and I will definitely update if something new happens. This has been really therapeutic and makes me feel less alone. TLDR, I confronted my husband about his work wife, and he lost it on me. Now I'm staying with my MIL. Top comments. Commenter 1. Welp, I kind of figured he wasn't that clueless. This is a full-blown emotional affair. From experience, things will only escalate they are in bed together. Protect your peace, because he sure doesn't give a damn about your feelings. Stay strong. Commenter 2, jumped right from, admitted it could be called an emotional affair, to, he began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated. OP made a valiant effort, but it doesn't seem like this marriage can be saved. Additional comments from OOP about her MIL. My MIL is on my side and told me point blank that he is wrong. However, she said she doesn't want to get in the middle BC she doesn't want to damage the relationship with either one of us. She told me I'm welcome as long as I need but she won't bring anything up to her son until he brings it up to her. My MIL agrees his actions are wrong but doesn't want things to escalate or to damage her relationship with either one of us so she is staying out of it unless he contacts her. As for my husband he has tried to reach out. He's called left message texted. I let him know I was safe and left it at that he will message or call every few hours but we haven't talked. Stories number 2. My SIL F31 disinvited my wife F28 from her baby shower after a joke, but my brother M35 still wants me M30 to go. I am stuck in the middle. I am 30 recently married the love of my life F28, and I'm super close with my brother M35. We always imagined our families being close too, until one single lunch ruined everything. So, my wife and I went out to eat with my brother and my SIL F31, who is pregnant and about to give birth to my first nephew. Needless to say, we are all very excited. Mid-meal, my brother, probably feeling sentimental, goes, "Man, I hope the baby turns out like me. He was such a cute kid." Now, a bit about my SIL. She's usually nice and I like her but she's definitely type A and a bit high maintenance. Without missing a beat, she shuts my brother down. "No, I'd much rather he turns out like you." A bit of an awkward comment and my brother probably thought so as well, so he goes, "No seriously, we'd be lucky if the kid was like me. He was such a nice and cute kid." And then, Sil doubles down, no, but you're so much more handsome, before turning to look directly at me and adding, no offense. Now, look. I wasn't deeply offended, my brother is a very good-looking guy, so I get it. But who just says that out loud? My wife, who had been quiet up to this point, clearly found it rude. So she jokingly goes, well, as long as the baby doesn't look like Sil, we should be fine. I chuckled. My brother laughed. Sil did not laugh. She immediately got pissed, glared at my wife, and went, what the hell does that mean? That's extremely rude. We're not close enough for jokes like that. My wife was taken aback and so was I. My brother tried to say something but she stormed out. My brother followed her, looking about as confused as I felt. Now, here's the thing, my brother adores me. He's always been my biggest supporter, and he wants me to be a big part of my nephew's life. He's having his first child, and this moment is really important to him. I love my brother too and can't see him sad like that. He says both my wife and Sil need to apologize eventually, but we shouldn't force it right now and give them some time to cool off. He also thinks Sil owes me an apology for what she said, but again, pregnancy hormones or whatever, so he doesn't want to push it yet. My parents actually side with my wife and think Sil was out of line first. But they also believe I shouldn't miss such a huge moment in my brother's life, and that we should cut Sil some slack because of her pregnancy. Here's my issue, I don't feel right going if my wife isn't welcome. I want to support her, but I also know this moment means the world to my brother. If I go, my wife might feel abandoned. If I don't, my brother will be heartbroken. I feel completely stuck. Consensus, people tell OOP to send a gift and stay home. Update. Thanks, everyone, for the replies. I think I read almost every single one. I really appreciated the different perspectives. First, some clarifications. My wife is not a mean person. She made a joke in the moment, although I admit that it wasn't a great joke given the sensitivity of the situation. But she's genuinely one of the kindest, most caring people I know. That's one of the reasons I love her so much. I don't think my brother did anything wrong by bringing up the topic. We were reminiscing about childhood, and he probably got nostalgic about having his little brother following him everywhere. My brother and I resemble each other quite a bit, though he's definitely the better looking one. Funny how that works. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean I'm insecure. If anything, he's the outlier, he's one of those people who naturally turns heads. Even when we were younger, he'd get random girls hitting on him wherever he went. It was such a running joke in our family that even my parents would tease him about it. The entire conversation lasted less than 5 minutes and escalated very quickly. I agree with the comments that all of us should have handled the situation better. But easier to say that in hindsight. In real time, things just got out of hand very quickly. I am sure that all of us regret what we said in the moment. Now for the actual update. I told my wife that I wouldn't go unless she was also invited. She immediately told me that she didn't want to be the reason I missed it and that I should go if I wanted to. She even said she'd be willing to apologize if my Sil was open to it, but that she wouldn't attend even if re-invited because she'd feel uncomfortable. I told her I appreciated that, but for me, it was both of us or none of us. Then I called my brother, and this is where I have to give him a lot of credit, because I know he was upset. He had really wanted me there, and I could hear the disappointment in his voice. But instead of pushing, he just said, I get it, man. Don't worry about it. I know that wasn't easy for him to say. He had to balance keeping things calm with his wife while also wanting his brother by his side. But he didn't guilt-trip me, didn't try to convince me otherwise, he just let me make my choice. He even said, don't worry, we'll save you guys some food and I'll drop it off later. I offered to help with setup if he needed it, and told him to say I have COVID to avoid awkward questions. He just laughed and said, got it. You caught the world's shortest COVID, just long enough for the baby shower but miraculously recovered the next day. Now, here's where things got a bit more complicated. My mom was not happy with him for not sorting this out earlier. She felt like he should have stepped in and made peace before it got to the point where my wife was uninvited. But my parents didn't say anything directly because they didn't want to get involved in the drama. I think that really weighed on him. He was already trying to navigate a tough situation, and now he had our parents silently judging him too. It put him in an impossible position, trying to be a good husband, a good brother, and a good son all at once. A couple of days passed with no further drama. Then something unexpected happened. My wife got a call from my Sil. At first, my wife panicked, thinking she was about to get yelled at. But instead, they actually had a really good conversation. I overheard bits of it, including my wife saying, "No, you're gorgeous," which made me laugh a little. After the call, my wife told me that Asael actually apologized first. She admitted that she'd been feeling really self-conscious about her looks during pregnancy and that my wife's joke had hit a sore spot. A little later, my brother called me. He told me that he had gently talked to Asael and helped her see that things had gotten out of hand. He also told me that knowing my wife was willing to apologize had made a huge difference. And then, he admitted something. He had wanted to fix things before the baby shower, but he knew his wife was already under a lot of stress. He didn't want to add more pressure on her while she was in the middle of planning. And honestly, I respect that. My Asael is one of those people who needs everything to be perfect: her look, my brother's look, the house, the decorations, etc. So I can understand the pressure she must have put on herself. And my brother knew that pushing her while she was stressed wouldn't have helped, so he waited. And after the event, when things calmed down, he quietly stepped in and fixed things. So where do things stand now? Things seem good on the surface. My wife and Asael made peace, and my brother and I are fine. My wife and I have decided to just be extra sensitive around Asael given what she is going through. All in all, the situation seems to have brought us somewhat closer together. The real takeaway: I have an amazing wife, but her humor could use some work. Also, my brother ain't too bad. Side note, speaking of whom, my brother will probably never see this because he only uses Reddit for sports and news, or so he says, but in the off chance he does, well, guess I'm busted. But since I have your attention, I'll admit something just this once. You are the best bro I could have asked for. That time you helped me for uni, I don't think you know how much it really meant to me. And when I was at a really low point, you stood by me. I don't think I've ever said it, but I've always appreciated that. Of course, I won't ever admit this in person and will forever deny I ever wrote this. TLDR, my Asael uninvited my wife from her baby shower after a joke. My brother wanted me to come anyway, but I refused to go without my wife. It caused some tension, but after a few unexpected conversations, things actually worked out, and I came out of it appreciating my brother even more. Edit: everyone keeps asking why my wife didn't apologize first. I thought I made it clear in the post, but maybe not. My wife was going to apologize but wanted to check if Asael was open to it. She had just been uninvited, so we had no idea whether my Asael was even open to talking to her. I had told my brother that my wife wanted to apologize, and if he had given us the green light, my wife would have absolutely called. Instead, my Asael decided to call once my brother told her that my wife wanted to apologize. That was her being the bigger person. Stories number 3. My 68F mother was given away for adoption. Now her 69M, 72M, 65F bio siblings are asking her to care for her 96F bio mother. I, 35F, grew up in the US, born and raised in Austin, Texas. My father, 70M, is Canadian, and my mother, 68F, is Greek. Every summer, we vacationed in Greece with my maternal grandparents. When I was 25, my parents retired and moved permanently to Greece after my mother inherited a house and a significant amount of money from her mother when she passed away. That's when things took a strange turn. During the last few months of my grandmother's life, my mom went to Greece to care for her, as she was no longer able to take care of herself. In her final days, my grandmother revealed a shocking secret: my mom was adopted. She wasn't the biological child of the parents who raised her. Instead, she was the daughter of my grandmother's cousin. Apparently, in Greece, decades ago, it was common for struggling families with many children to give a baby to a relative who couldn't have kids. My mother was devastated. She grieved the fact that she never knew her real family and that no one ever told her. After my grandmother passed, she decided to move to Greece to reconnect with the biological family she never met. She traveled to the region where her biological mother lived and met her for the first time, along with 2 older brothers and a younger sister. Her oldest brother was especially emotional because he vaguely remembered the day they gave my mother away as a baby. But from the start, my mom was hurt that none of them had ever tried to find her. Their excuse was that she had moved to the US, and it was difficult to track her down, while her biological mother said she had made a pact with her cousin, my adoptive grandmother, never to reveal the truth. The entire village had been told that my mom had died as a baby, so no one ever questioned it. For the past 10 years, my parents have lived in Greece, and my mom has built a close relationship with her siblings. However, her relationship with her biological mother has remained distant and formal. She never got over the fact that this woman kept all her other children but gave her away, likely because she was a girl. At the time, boys were valued more because they worked the fields and contributed to the family's income, whereas girls were seen as a burden. 2 years ago, I was able to move to Greece as well, since the parents who raised my mom left her a sizable inheritance. It allowed us to live comfortably, and honestly, I preferred the lifestyle here. We live in a beautiful place near the capital, and life is peaceful. Now, here's the issue. My mom's biological mother is now 96 years old and in very poor health. Her biological father passed away decades ago due to political circumstances. Her two older brothers, her sister lives abroad, have been taking care of their mother, but they are exhausted. Their wives are complaining, tensions are rising, and at a recent family gathering, they told my mom that she should also help take care of their mother because it's unfair that they are doing it alone. My father was furious when he heard this and told my mother to cut them off entirely. My mom refuses to take care of this woman, she doesn't love her, doesn't feel any emotional connection to her, and can't forgive her for abandoning her. My mom is not close to this woman's and of course she has no legal claim to any inheritance from this family. However, she has truly enjoyed her relationship with her siblings and their children and doesn't want to lose that. She's feeling pressured, though, and she's deeply upset by their demands. When I found out, I was livid. How dare these people ask this of my mother, knowing full well that she was abandoned and that no one even attempted to find her. I feel like they're manipulating her, and she's unable to see how unfair this is. I'm getting married in a month to my fiancé, who is Greek and fully supportive of me, and I am seriously considering uninviting all of them from the wedding. I want to send a clear message that we don't want contact with them anymore. However, my mother is hesitant, she doesn't want to escalate things, even though she's hurting. I feel like she's not as attached to these people as she thinks. She's mourning the idea of the family she never had rather than truly loving these people. And I hate seeing her being taken advantage of. I always idealized Greece and the strong bonds of family, but now I see that's not always the case. I'm so disappointed by all of this. What would you do in this situation? Would you cut them off? Would you disinvite them from the wedding? How can I help my mother navigate this? This is a throwaway account because I'm very active on Reddit and don't want people to know my personal business. Edit, I forgot to mention something I think is important. My mom suggested they find a senior care facility to put her biological mother in. She even offered to pay a quarter of the price. My biological uncles were offended because they said it was disrespectful to their mother to put her in a nursing home. Another Greek thing, although they are generally financially comfortable, a quarter for a good structure can mean 400 to 500 euros person per month which, by Greek standards, is enough. I think their idea of help is taking her biological mother home for a few months. Stories number 4. My crush turned out to be a blackpiller incel. I, 22F, met a guy, 23M, in a college few months ago. We go to the same class, he is cute, funny and really intelligent. We exchanged our socials and started talking almost daily. We have been pretty good friends so far. After some time I developed a crush on him but I didn't want to make a move because I'm not used to it. Suddenly, I've noticed some strange things about him. He follows some Facebook and Instagram meme pages featuring attractive male models. I didn't give it much thoughts at first until I've noticed that he sometimes makes comments saying that only looks matter and personality means nothing. Talking about the black pill, which I really didn't know about until I googled it and found out that it's an incel ideology. I was hesitant to talk about it with him at first but I just said FK it I will tell him. Long story short, we've had a long discussion about the whole thing. I was shocked to discover that he is an incel with some toxic views about women, talking about genetic determinism, ranting that there are some men who are doomed when it comes to romantic relationship and there is nothing they can do about it. He also kept saying that I wouldn't understand and that the black pill helped him a lot. That now his interactions with people and women in particular was better and positive. He said that when he was naive, he was always worried that women saw him as unattractive or weird but now he is not worried about those things anymore because he knows that it's all about looks anyway and not about who he was or what he says. It was never meant to be from the beginning. I felt sorry for him NGL especially when he mentioned getting bullied and some harsh rejections he faced through his life. I told him that I thought he was cute when I saw him. He shrugged me off and said I'm only trying to cheer him up. I asked him what he would do if a girl asked him out. He said he will think it's kind of a prank or a joke cause it happened to him before. Then Kay asked him what if she truly likes you and is attracted to you. He basically said, I will probably think there might be something wrong with her and she is seeing something that isn't there. I would turn her down cause I'm in a good place and at peace now. I asked him why he keeps following these pages then. He said that it's just for fun or to kill any hope so he won't be crushed ever again. I know that this guy is full of red flags and sound very miserable but I don't think he is a bad person. I just want to know if there is any hope to pull him back from this rabbit hole. Stories number 5. My 41F partner of 2 years, 44 meters, is adamant I am cheating on him. I am not. Help. Just a bit of context, we've been together for 2 years. He has 2 kids, I have 1 kid, irrelevant to this story. We live apart, I bought a home a few months before we started dating, and are together only when our kids are with their other parent. He's the guy that has treated me the best of all my relationships and I love him dearly. I'm a chronically anxious and stressed person and he's absolutely my peace, but today he sucker punched me with this. He's absolutely convinced I'm cheating on him. The reason he suddenly started thinking this is because 2 days ago I wanted to show him something on my phone. There was an irrelevant tab opened, my Hotmail account that is full of spam. Had this account for the past 24 years but mostly use my Gmail. He saw, quickly in passing, that there was a folder with a man's name, let's say, James. I don't remember the purpose of this folder, it's empty, haven't touched it in 15 years, no idea why it exists. It was probably useful at some point but no idea. Well, now he's convinced that I closed the tab too quick. I was acting weird and nervous and suspicious. This means I've cheated or I am actively cheating. That's his perspective. Now, on to the actual truth. I am absolutely not cheating on him. He's the man of my dreams, love of my life. I have never ever given him a reason to even suspect I'm cheating. I spend one entire week with him at his place, never hid my phone, anything like that. When I'm something my house, it means I'm with my kiddo and my time is 100% devoted to her. I also work a lot. There is not a single second in my life where I would have time to devote to any other person, even through email. I spend my downtime at home or being with kiddo and the cat, watching YouTube videos. I send him a lot of pictures of me chilling with my cat as well and we have a constant communication going. I'm very chatty through text. Anyways, at first I was super pissed and also confused because why on earth would you not trust me? What is happening? No matter what I say, he says I don't make any sense whatsoever and he's just adding 1 + 1 and to him, the answer is 2. I keep telling him that he's the one not making any sense. We're back and forth on the texting, he doesn't even want to speak over the phone or come over to talk about it. I've sent him numerous screenshots of my email with unopened emails that go back more than a year. I've sent screenshots of me typing the keyword James in the email and nothing coming up. Eve's shown him the completely empty sent folder, which to me is weird. I've sent numerous emails over the years. Why is it empty? And I've also given him the login and password so he can look for himself. I've accumulated a lot of junk in that email over the many years I've had it, but rarely use it now. It is just a receptacle of all my Amazon orders, my McDonald's app receipts, and various spam emails. I'm pissed he doesn't trust me. He says he needs time to think. I'm stuck in a loop of pissed, confused and sad. What's going on? Comments. Commenter 1. Is this incredibly out of character for him, or has he always been a bit jealous and suspicious? Could he be the one cheating and protecting? Reply. This is wildly out of character. I am unsure if he would be projecting his own cheating. Anything is possible, but I'd hope not. I don't believe so. He's high libido and we have sex daily, when we're together, which is every other week, except when one of us is sick. I give him everything he needs in that department, and all the other departments as well. We take good care of each other typically. Commenter 2. Usually when people get paranoid out of nowhere it could be because they're out doing what they're paranoid of you doing. Or at the very least, are being dishonest about something they're doing. Update, 5 days later. So, it did not end well. After 48 hours of back and forth through text, because he refused to even speak to me over the phone or face to face, and me giving him my password so he can go check for himself that nothing was fucky, he still wouldn't back down. At this point his behavior was concerning and I thought he may have a mental episode going on. It was getting too much. He was texting me at all hours of the night trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense in the first place. So I blocked him. When he realized that he sent me emails at my work email, asking me to check my Hotmail, which had nothing different in it. When I blocked his email he decided to message my best friend and telling her, if I can't talk to her, I'll go through you instead. My friend has literally nothing to do whatsoever with this whole thing. She never replied and is sticking with me because she's also seeing how crazy he's acting, so I thought that was that. Yesterday at work I was visibly sad and distressed, and my whole team hugged me, offered support and I had lunch with my other good friend and colleague. So the day goes by, I get off work at 4. I am walking to my car in the parking lot, flanked by 2 colleagues and I'm kind of explaining the whole story. They go to one of the girls' car because they carpool. I walk towards my own car which is parked 2 rows away. I hear a loud man's voice behind me. I turned around and it's him. He's walking very quickly towards me and still talking nonsense about emails. I hold my hand up and say, I'm not doing this with you right now, all the while calculating whether I am safe to go to my car. He was screaming at me that I was a whore, a slut. I've never seen him like this before at all. A little energy pushed me to turn around and go to my colleague's car. At this point I'm shaking and scared. I enter her car and start hyperventilating. They're like, we'll drive you home. He was about 6 feet from the car, hate in his eyes, motioning me to get out of the car. We drove off. I kept apologizing to them, crying and looking behind us the whole trip to make sure he wasn't following. When I came home my mother was there. I broke down and she called the cops. A nice officer told me over the phone, "I got nothing else going on right now, you're my priority, and I'm coming to you as soon as I can." He came to my home, took my deposition, was extremely patient and understanding, explained everything that he was going to do after. My ex was placed under arrest for criminal harassment with certain conditions to follow. Not sure about the legal terms here, but they did not handcuff him or take him to jail, it was just a verbal thing, and he will probably be summoned in court at a later date. I have a good network of people who care, and I believe I'm safe. Thanks everyone. Edit. I just had a 2-hour conversation with his ex, let's call her Jess, not the mother of his kids, but the girl he dated, between the kid's mother and me. A very interesting conversation. She has lived exactly the same situation as me, minus the calling the cops. She told me he was ultra controlling, physically and verbally abusive to his 2 sons, a bad drug habit, an unhealthy borderline inappropriate relationship with the mother of his children, and he was psychologically and sexually abusive towards Jess. She told me he used to put her on a pedestal, same as me, but he had a lot of behavior problems, that I've noticed but chose to ignore just because I loved him so much. I hope he gets the help he needs. Comments. Commenter 1. The one piece of advice I will offer. People like this often ignore the police because they are no longer living in our reality. Been there. Just because they have issues, clearly here, it doesn't mean you have to feel 1 ounce of sympathy or guilt because whatever is going on. It's destroyed any chance of them being allowed in your life anymore. You may well get guilt sympathy pangs, and you should grab them by the collar and throw them out on their ass the moment they enter your head. The only way to mentally deal with stocky exes, is to literally stop caring about them at all, as then the only decisions you will make will be around your own safety. Reply. Thank you, I needed to hear this. I am angry at him, but sometimes during the day I have small bouts of thoughts like, did I overreact? Am I being too harsh with having him arrested? And I have huge regrets about it. But then I realize, hey, the actual officer of the law told me he had enough motive to literally arrest him, so I'm doing the right thing. Commenter 2. But knowing my ex, that's just a facade and he's probably absolutely boiling with rage inside. Can you talk about this a little more? In your OP, you describe him only using positive traits, but if you know he's probably absolutely boiling with rage inside, that speaks to you knowing he has a temper. I'm not asking to be snarky, but it may be helpful to see if his behavior is not as out of character as you initially thought. Reply. I understand what you mean. Yes, he did have a temper, but never, ever directed at me personally. Usually he would be mad at the mother of his children for mishandling a situation regarding the kids, and would go on a rant about how much of a saint she is. But towards me, the sweetest guy there ever was. I guess I didn't think that it would happen to me, but isn't that how it usually goes? Never thought I'd be on the receiving end of it. Stories number 6. Aita 4. Wasting my ex's time because I didn't want marriage or kids with her but got my new girlfriend pregnant. I, 24M, was with my ex from when we were 18 until 22. Our relationship was good overall, but toward the end we started having serious issues because she wanted marriage and kids and I didn't. I was upfront from the start. I never saw myself as a husband or father and I didn't think that would change. She kept hoping I would change my mind, but when she realized I wouldn't, she broke up with me. It sucked, but I respected her decision. She wanted something different from what I did and it would have been unfair to keep stringing each other along. She moved on and so did I. A year later I started dating someone new. Things moved fast and about 6 months ago she got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but after a lot of thinking I realized I actually wanted to step up and be a dad. I don't know if it was the timing, the person, or just me growing up, but something shifted. I am still unsure about marriage, but I know I want to be involved in my child's life and give this relationship a real shot. My ex found out through a social media post and was pissed. She messaged me saying I wasted 4 years of her life, lied about not wanting kids and strung her along when I was willing to do all of this for someone else. She called me selfish and a hypocrite for refusing to build a future with her but suddenly being okay with it now. I told her that I never lied to her. I genuinely didn't want kids or marriage when we were together. People change and sometimes it takes the right circumstances to see things differently. I also pointed out that she was the one who broke up with me because she wanted something else and that was her choice. I never forced her to stay. Stories number 7. How do we tell my stepdaughter about her stepsister's marriage? She is going to be devastated. My so of 15 years and I have 3 adult kids, in their 30s. He has boy 36, girl 34, and I have a girl 33. The boy is married and bought a house with his wife. Until recently, both girls have been in long-term relationships, over 6 years. My stepdaughter desperately wants to marry her boyfriend. They've lived together for 6 years, she pays him rent to live in a condo that he bought about 3 years ago. He has made it clear however, that he will not marry her and that he will never share assets with her. My daughter and her boyfriend have also lived together for over 6 years, they have split rent while he works on his PhD, and she works and writes her novel. My daughter didn't care about getting married at all. Last night I got a call from my daughter telling me that due to negative changes to her health insurance, she and her boyfriend are getting married. She can then jump on his health insurance. My stepdaughter is going to be so sad, and this is turning what would be a fun event into something melancholy for me. Any advice on how to approach my stepdaughter with this news is greatly appreciated. Stories number 8. Aita for telling my dad I didn't want him or the woman he replaced my mom with to pretend to honor her on the 20th anniversary of her death. My brother, 28M, and I, 26F, lost our mom 20 years ago. We, along with my brother's wife and my boyfriend, took the day to honor our mom. The day never passes without something from either of us, but 20 years was something we wanted to mark with a little more. Her death is still painful for us. We did not include our dad or stepfamily, they never joined before. Well, Dad used to. But it's been 11 or more years now since he did anything to honor our mom. My dad wasn't happy when he found out we'd done something without him, and his wife felt the same. They called my brother and me several times to complain about the secrecy and how we left them out of something important. For the last 14 years my dad has described his wife as the love of his life. He also stated on multiple occasions that he was never as in love with anyone, and falling for her made him realize his feelings for others were never close. While he's allowed that it stings us, the kids he had with his first wife who died. He used to say he loved mom. He hasn't in years. He removed all traces of her eventually, and like I said, he no longer honored her memory on her birthday or her anniversary. He has also stated he'd change nothing about his life because it worked out just the way it was supposed to in the end. Comments like that and his wife comments that we spoke about our mom too much or had too many photos of her made us distant from them. They have 2 kids together also, and that always made things more awkward because they have commented on how unhappy my brother and I look when Dad is making his comments about his wife and they can't see it from our perspective. During one of Dad's phone calls to me where he was complaining, he said he'd been married to my mom for 10 years and they had me and my brother together and he should be allowed to join us on such a big anniversary. It pissed me off and I told him I didn't want him or the woman he replaced her with to pretend they were honoring her. I said he hadn't honored her in years and had made it very clear he didn't give a fuck about her anymore, with all those comments about his wife being the love of his life and how he wouldn't wish mom was alive because it made him happier long term. He told me it was such an uncharitable outlook. I asked him to consider how the kids of wife number 1 feel when he makes those kinds of comments. I said he would never convince me that he didn't replace her and essentially downgrade her to a past mistake of his. He went on a rant to my brother after we spoke and my brother told him he felt the same. He said it was exactly how we took it and always would. My dad and his wife are claiming my comments were cruel and that it shows a lack of appreciation for what she did to bring him back to life after losing mom. She said it hurt to realize we have so little love or appreciation for her that we can't see his comments in the positive. Stories number 9. AITJ for not paying for my stepdad's surgery. TLDRI, 22M, told my stepdad, 47M, I wouldn't pay for his surgery, due to how he treated me as a child. Now, my whole mom's side of my family is saying I'm the bad guy, and I don't know where to go. For some background, my parents split before I was born, and my dad didn't want anything to do with me at first. When I was 5, my mom, 41F, was bringing home a cool friend who was my future stepdad. I wasn't stupid and knew that they were dating, and apparently my behavior plummeted. That was around the time that my stepdad started hitting me. If I talked back, I'd be spanked. If I tried telling my mother, he would cut me. I realized that I was stuck with him. Then on my 10th birthday, they got married. They didn't even ask if it was okay. I had made plans with my uncle on my dad's side to go to a trampoline park. I had always wanted to go to one, but was forced to cancel. The one time I fought back, he cut a gaping wound on the back of my thigh, which my mom found out and put me in therapy, because she thought I had done it. Shortly after I was put in therapy, one of my friends helped me realize that I was a bisexual, and helped me get with a gay guy. When my stepdad found out, he grounded me, called me a bunch of slurs, and threw me against the wall until the drywall started falling apart. I then almost never left my room for the next 6 years I lived with them. So now my stepdad wants surgery to try and fix his brain, because apparently he had been born with some neurological disorder I had no idea about, and my mom wants me to pay. She called me and said that from what she saw we were always so close and were almost father and son. I thought about telling her right then and there what he had done to me, but I chose not to. I refused to pay, and my mom asked why. I said that I wasn't able to pay such a high amount as of right then, but I would be able to help in the near future, as that's what I was always told whenever I wanted something. My mom made a verbal noise that sounded like agreement and hung up. My brother, let's call him John, 14M, has been calling me non-stop, asking to pay for his dad's surgery. John took after his father in every which way, even this neurological disorder. John had took it upon himself to be the worst sibling imaginable when he turned 6, and I had to deal with it. I feel like I'm rambling here, but there is just too much to explain about my childhood. Anyways, last week I told John to stop calling me, and that I just wanted to be left alone about this whole thing, and I would not be paying for my stepdad's surgery. That got the whole extended family, and they are all taking my stepdad's side, saying he raised me so I should help him. Side note, my stepdad made me not want to have kids because I'm afraid I'll end up like him, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. My dad's side of my family knows about everything that is going on and just wants to watch the drama unfold. My dad is supporting me, as well as my uncle, saying that I am in the right, but I don't know. I want your guys' advice on how to proceed with this. Stories number 10. Anyone else quietly planning to leave their relationship? I rearranged my schedule to a 4-day work week. I'm using those extra business hours to research cost of living and jobs. I'm also using that extra day to enjoy life without him around. I'm sick of trying to convince him to go on dates with me. We had a plan for our future and a vision of the relationship we wanted to build together, and he has completely backed out of it all but refuses to discuss it. Anytime I suggest a city we could move to, he immediately Googles one thing: if you are able to hunt there with high-powered rifles. He doesn't even hunt here with high-powered rifles. He doesn't hunt. Absolute last straw was him refusing to vote even though he is registered, then commenting about the current state of the US that he doesn't care because it doesn't affect me. I'm actually embarrassed I married him. Stories number 11. Aita for refusing to apologize to my sister. Okay, so before I get into this, I feel like I need to explain my family situation because it's unconventional to say the least. Apologies if this is boring to anyone, feel free to skip the first paragraph if you don't care. In the 80s, my mum married her first husband and had my sister, we'll call her Helen, who is now 32. They divorced in the early 90s because he was unfaithful, and she met my dad and had me in 96. My dad died shortly after I was born, and in the mid-aughts, she reconnected with her first husband and they got remarried. Helen and I have never really gotten along. She was always very jealous of me because she didn't like sharing mum's attention, and we had very little in common because of the big age gap. She was also just pretty mean to me throughout our youth. I chalk most of it up to the fact that, in the eyes of her dad, she can do no wrong and she's basically spoiled rotten by him. Mum didn't like to argue with my stepdad too much, so ultimately Helen always ended up getting her way. An example of her behavior: when I came out, our mum threw a little party for me. Helen didn't like that she wasn't center of attention and threw a huge tantrum because our mother told her she wasn't allowed to cut the cake. She was 27 at this time. Helen is getting married in a couple weeks' time. Expectedly, she's been something of a Bridgeville this entire time. It's gotten progressively worse since the wedding planning has started. It reached a peak last week, when she essentially told our mother that she wouldn't be allowed to be in any of the wedding pictures unless she dyed her hair. She recently had highlights put in it, and a family friend made a comment about how nice she looks and how she and Helen could be mistaken for sisters. And also essentially told me that my partner isn't welcome at all because he has tattoos that are visible when wearing a suit, on his hands and neck, and she thinks it looks common and uncouth. This wouldn't be an issue at all, except her maid of honor also has neck tattoos and she has no issue with that. Mum was really upset by this, and I was annoyed by what I perceived to be a targeted jab at my boyfriend. I kinda blew up at her and called her a spoiled brat and a bridezilla, and told her that I didn't want to go to her wedding anyway. She burst into tears and ran out of the room. Naturally, her father took her side and told me what an absolutely rotten person I am and demanded I apologize to her. I refused, and he's been hounding me on it ever since. As Mum doesn't like conflict, she's told me to just apologize to put an end to things, but I don't think I should. It's causing a rift in the family, as stepdad is furious with me for upsetting his princess, Helen is refusing to speak to me but talking shit about me to anyone who will listen, and Mum is kinda caught in the middle. I'm torn on if I ought to do as Mum says and apologize for the sake of peace, or if I should stick to my guns and refuse. Verdict: not the asshole. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. She sounds like a spoiled woman child. Her reasons for imposing restrictions on you and your mom are arbitrary and ridiculous. She sounds pretty crazy, and I would stay away from her if I were you. Definitely a wedding that will not be fun to go to anyway. Reply: spoiled woman child and pretty crazy are right. As I said, her dad allowed her to think she can do no wrong. I kind of understand why, because he was led to believe he couldn't have children, so she's his miracle baby, but he absolutely created a monster. Commenter 2. NTA, she doesn't want your partner. I'm assuming partner means something more serious than 2 months, at her wedding, then she clearly doesn't value having you there, or you in general. You would be perfectly within your rights to not go. I don't think standing up for your partner and pointing out her hypocrisy is assholish at all. Reply. Yeah, my partner and I have been together for just shy of 3 years, but we've been friends since we were kids. To be honest, I think she's mostly got something against him because she made a pass at him a few years back and he said no because obviously he's gay, and anyway she's 11 years older than him. She was super pissed when I announced he and I were dating, and I don't think she's ever forgiven either of us. Update. So my sister's wedding was today. I took the advice of people here and apologized to keep the peace, make things easier for my mom, but told her that my partner and I are kind of a package deal and that either both of us come or neither of us do. She stuck to her guns and said that my partner wasn't welcome, at first maintaining that it was because of his tattoos and then eventually getting emotional and yelling at me that he wasn't allowed after what he'd done to her, which confirms my theory that it was because he rejected her years ago. I just calmly kept telling her that if she didn't want him to come then fine, but not to expect me either. I guess she thought I wasn't being serious, because I got a call from my mum shortly before the ceremony was due to start asking where I was. I told her I wasn't coming. I got a lot of rather abusive texts from my stepfather, telling me he always knew I was worthless, but this was a new level, as well as some direct threats. I ignored them all, though I did text mum and apologize for causing problems, but I did inform my sister I wouldn't be going. Culminated about an hour ago with my stepfather and now brother-in-law showing up drunk at my flat and trying to fight me while my sister cried outside. They got removed by building security, and honestly it was more funny than anything to me. Apparently I've ruined her wedding day, but I'm really struggling to care. Maybe that makes me now the asshole, I can accept that. Just thought I would share this update, since I posted about it here initially. ETA, clarifying a couple of things that people seem confused on. First, the whole "she got rejected by my boyfriend" thing. This one is my fault. I thought I'd included the story in my original post, but looking back it was actually in the comments, so apologies for any confusion there. Essentially what happened is that about 6 years ago, when he was 17 and she was 26, she propositioned him for sex. Don't blame her, he's hot as fuck. That was a poorly worded joke that fell flat, striking it out since some of y'all got triggered, and was told no. She's held a grudge ever since, I think, in part, because she was told no for pretty much the first time in her life, and also later because he chose to get with me when he'd said he wasn't interested in her. He was fully out at the time she propositioned him and she was definitely aware he was gay. Second, some people are seemingly confused and thinking this whole thing was a one-off incident that led to me not going to the wedding, wanting to lessen cut contact with her. This is not the case and is again probably due to a lack of communication on my part, so again, apologies. I'll clear up that we've never has a good relationship, and she's been pretty cruel to the point it could be considered emotionally abusive to me since I was very small. She's also been physically abusive at several points throughout my life. This is not a debate of me placing my relationship over my family, but, rather, one of me finally taking up for myself after years of being a pushover and the aftermath it's caused. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA, and kind of obviously so. That's fucking hilarious that on her wedding day she's bothered about her brother who she doesn't like and his boyfriend who she doesn't seem to be over, as opposed to, you know, the guy she's meant to be spending her life with. Commenter 2. I truly would like to know who is choosing to marry her. Even after all this on the wedding day. Like, this is so unfathomable but also believable because some people really are this sick. NTA. Reply. Her husband is pretty much the male equivalent of her TBH. I pray for any future kids they might have. Commenter 3. Misery sure does love company, eh? Reply. Absolutely. I do have a sense of brotherly love for my sister and I don't wish to see her harmed or anything, so I hope he isn't super shitty to her, and if he is, I hope she can get out. But they're equally narcissistic and annoying for sure. Reply. Honestly, I think it was less about her being bothered about me and more about her being bothered about not getting her way, but you're right that it really is pretty pathetic. Commenter 4. Do you think that, maybe, someone at the wedding found out that you didn't come because your boyfriend wasn't invited? Because if that happened, it would make her seem pretty petty. Reply. Oh, I'm absolutely positive that she told everyone she could and tried to paint it as if I was being a petty child. Probably worked with her father's side of the family, but on our mom's side most of them no, her dad's side have mistreated me most of my life and love my boyfriend. So they tend to take everything she says about me with a punch of salt. Stories number 12. My fiancé, 31M, tried to break up with me, 30F, on the day I got fired, feeling lost after 10 years together. Hey everyone, I really need some outside perspective on my relationship. My fiancé, 31M, and I, 30F, have been together for 10 years, engaged for 4. Recently, he tried to break up with me on the same day I lost my job, and I don't know how to process everything. The day I got fired, he texted me and asked if I was joking. When he came home, he didn't say anything to me until I tried to reassure him that I would try to find another job quickly and that we had savings to fall back on for situations like this. That's when he blew up at me and said he doesn't know if he can deal with me not having a job again and him doing everything. He said he's felt lost for a while and thought me getting a full-time job and keeping it would make him happy, but it didn't. He told me he feels like he has no identity because after college, we immediately moved in together, and his entire 20s have been us. The frustrating part is that during the time I had that job, one of the best jobs I've ever had, dream job worthy, he never once indicated to me that he was unhappy or communicated that he was feeling this way. I thought we were on the same page with what we wanted for our future and our lives together. But now, for the past 3 weeks, it feels like he's given up and doesn't even care to try. His excuse is that he's emotionally exhausted. But what about me? I'm exhausted too, and I've been carrying a lot of the emotional and practical weight for so long. He struggles with organization and forgets even the simplest things but refuses to seek medication or strategies that could help. He claims childhood trauma from a misdiagnosed medication he was prescribed that changed how he acted and he's scared to be medicated again. I've told him and stressed that he was put on the wrong medication as a prepubescent kid and now he's an adult and can be medicated properly so he can handle everyday tasks and anxiety. I have had issues in the past keeping jobs, and while yes, he has covered the bills during those times, he talks and acts like he's been my caretaker for the past 10 years and that I've done nothing with my life. It's frustrating because I have contributed in many ways, and I don't feel like that narrative is fair to me. What makes it even more frustrating is that I am the one who actually handles all of our bills, what gets paid and when. He doesn't even know when his own phone bill is due unless I tell him. I've tried to get him to create reminders or use a notebook to keep track of important dates, but he either gives up on it or never follows through. I even offered to set up a calendar on his phone to help him remember things, and he has yet to take me up on that. This lack of initiative extends into our home life too. I feel like I shouldn't have to remind him to do basic things like cleaning the toilet or even giving the cats fresh water. His excuse is always, I just don't notice the things you do. So, I tried to compromise by making a cleaning schedule. That lasted a short while before we both stopped following it, and eventually, I just reverted back to doing all the cleaning myself, unless I specifically ask him to do something. We had talked about moving to a new state, only a few hours away. We both agreed it would be a fresh start for our adult lives. We vacationed there multiple times for birthdays and anniversaries. We both fell in love with the area and the people. He was even looking into going to school there to become a pilot, something he's always wanted to do. Now he says that me focusing on moving is going too fast for him, even though this was something we both planned and dreamed about together. We also live in one of the worst cities in our state. It's a major tourist city with an obscene amount of crime, and we're both miserable here. There's not much to do unless you want to spend a ton of money or deal with massive crowds. We've both talked about how unhappy we are in this environment, so it's confusing that now he's suddenly hesitant about leaving. To add to everything, I recently got an interview for something I've always wanted to do at a really good college in the area, and when I called to tell him, his response was just, "That's cool." He didn't even ask about how great a fit I'd be for the position or acknowledge how much I've enjoyed doing that work in the past. I told him it upset me that he didn't seem enthusiastic or remotely happy for me. His response was, "Sorry, I don't know what you want from me, but I am happy that you got an interview." I felt like he didn't even care. Since the breakup attempt, he apologized and said he wants to try to make things work, but he said I need to be more intimate with him and ask how he's doing more often. I told him I was sorry that he felt neglected and that I'd been so focused on keeping my job and saving money to move that I unintentionally ignored him. But now I feel like it's not just me who needs to put in the effort. After 10 years together, I feel like I should be able to count on him, but instead, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, trying to be what he needs while getting very little back. I don't know if this relationship is salvageable or if I'm just clinging to something that's already slipping away. I love him, and I want to stay together, but I'm lost on how to fix this. Stories number 13. Aita for breaking up with my boyfriend because he lost my dog. Hello, everyone. It is my first time posting anything on here and English is not my first language. Please keep in mind I have been crying for the past 2 days, sorry for any mistakes. Me, 24F, and my boyfriend, 24M, have been together for almost 4 years. We get along okay for the most part, things like him losing something of mine have happened, but never to this level. I have had my dog, Milo, 12F, for her whole life. We grew up together and it's really hard for her to get to trust other people. She has always been an anxious girl, but she is the light of my life and was always by my side even in my worst days. 3 years ago I introduced my boyfriend to my family, which is just my mom and Milo. He and my mom got along okay, but he did not acknowledge Milo in any way, which is fine. I did not expect him to be all over her, considering she does not like that, but I still found it pretty strange because he said he absolutely loved dogs, and to be honest, I believe that because he would always pet dogs when we were outside. Any interaction for the past 3 years with her was limited, but Milo warmed up to him. She would greet him, go to him for pets, which he sometimes gave, and accepted him on our daily walks. 1.5 years ago Milo got sick. She had a tooth infection which was pretty bad. Her whole right eye was swollen shut. I asked my boyfriend to take us to the vet, because I don't have a car. The vet took care of the infection, gave me some antibiotics to give her every day and instruction to clean the wound that was left after the vet cleaned the puss. For a couple of weeks I did not hang out that much with my boyfriend. I took care of Milo because she was not feeling great. One thing that stood out to me was the fact that he seemed pretty pissed every time I brought her up, talking about her progress. Looking back, that should have risen some red flags, but I guess I brushed it off. Now that I gave you the short version of the past, this is what's happening in the present. I planned with my mom to go on a short vacation, to visit my grandparents. I was talking to my boyfriend about this trip and I told him who would take care of Milo, my best friend, Alex, 23M. My boyfriend then offered to take care of her. He was mad that I did not come first to him, stating that he loves Milo and wants to go on walks with her. I reluctantly agreed, considering this love for her was out of the blue. The trip was supposed to last 3 days. On day 2, I was talking with my boyfriend on the phone and he casually says that Milo really likes to stay outside. For me, this felt off, and asked him what he meant. He left my sweet girl outside, hours at the time, alone, and would check up on her hourly. Mind you, I live in an apartment and I don't have a backyard. Me and my mom left as soon as I told her and we arrived back home at around 9 p.m. Since then, I blocked my boyfriend on everything and have been searching for my girl. I have printed posters, went out every day for hours at a time and put her on Facebook groups around my area. If you have any advice of something more I could do, please let me know. Now, he and his friend group say I'm an asshole because I have put my dog above my boyfriend in all of our 4 years of relationship. I know for a fact this is not true, but I don't have anyone else to ask, besides people that are really close to me and would be biased. I am sorry for the long post, my mind is all over the place. TLDR, my boyfriend lost my dog, he was never close to her and is calling me an AH for breaking up with him. Sum of comments. Commenter, NTA this is negligence when he had responsibility to uphold. Heck, he might have done this on purpose. Reply, this is what I am the most afraid of. He seems smart enough not to let her alone outside, considering how scared she is of everything. Thank you. Commenter, I think he did this on purpose. I would check with local veterinarians and see if he put Milo down. If he did, get a lawyer ASAP. I could never be with someone who had no regard for something as special as the love you have for your dog. Reply, she is chipped, would have he been able to do that without me? I did not even consider this. Commenter, check all your local shelters, it feels like he's given her away and is pretending she's wandered off. Reply, that's what I did first thing in the morning. Left them my number and one of the posters to the ones that let me thank you. Commenter, also, do you have any local farms, junkyards, tips or nature, camping hiking, areas? You could drop posters off at these places to see if anyone has come across the dog or her body. A worst case scenario I hope isn't true. Reply, nothing like that, I am more afraid that she has been hit by a car or attacked by other dogs. Thank you. Commenter, can you ask to see his car for evidence of dog hairs to see if he drove her out of area? Reply, I doubt he would let me check and I would rather not meet up with him anymore. Even if I find her fur, I think he would still not tell me if he did something to her. Thank you. Where I lives. I live in Europe. I have a group of people helping me at the moment. Thank you. Police. I was not sure if the police would help me. I have no proof of him doing anything wrong, but it is worth a try. Thank you. Commenter, sorry for hijacking the comment, I just want you to see this. I have heard that it helps if you leave the clothes you have worn around the neighborhood. I do not know if this is true, but at this point, I suspect you would try anything to find her. Reply, I never thought of that, I'll bring some t-shirts when I go out later today. Thank you. Letting X take care of the dog in the first place. Reply, to be honest, him being mad that I did not ask him to care for Milo was very weird to me, considering the fact that he did not pay any attention to her in general. That's why he was not the first on my list. I should have trusted my gut, I feel guilty. To another commenter, I agree I have been naive, but he always went out of his way to pet dogs, cats when we were outside. Even if he did not like dogs, or even my dog, it would have not been a big problem for me. I did not press him to spend time with her or come on walks with us, I did not talk about her excessively, besides when she was sick and I gave him updates. This is the reason he was not the first on my list when it came to her care while I was away. Even though I found it weird that he wanted to care for her, harming her in any way was not on my mind. Commenter, not sure if I'm understanding this correctly. Milo wasn't in a fenced backyard, but just outside in general. No fences, no leash, no monitoring. Just put on the apartment's front law. Reply, yes, you are correct, because she came back on the first day. He checked on her every hour, at least that is what he told me. OOP clarifies, I am sorry that it did not make sense. I was in distress. I'll try to explain it better. Spoke to him on the phone, he told me she was outside. Told him to get her inside. He can't find her, but says she will come back. I tell my mom and we leave. We get home and he leaves my house. Comment, I filed a police report today. Thank you, filing a police report. To be honest, they did not seem that interested about the situation. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Leaving clothes out. Thank you for your time. I did leave some worn clothes in common areas and my neighbors are aware. I don't know what he wanted to achieve with this, but he for sure broke my heart. Maybe if he looked remorseful or helped me search for her we would have been in better terms, but still not together. Him knowing that she is scared, but still leaving her outside, even if she did not leave, would make me put an end to the relationship. He knows what she means to me and my mom, he knows she only feels fully comfortable in my house. It's making me go crazy that someone who I thought was my person would do such thing. Commenter, you lost me at, we get along okay for the most part. The bar is so low for some of y'all face with tears of joy. Reply, 19 hours after OG post, when you are close to a situation, without an outside perspective, you might miss or brush off some things. The fact that I said, we get along okay, is because I have nothing nice to say about him anymore. He has never mistreated me, spoke bad to or about me. The only thing he had a problem with, I guess, was my dog. Update post. Hi, a lot of people asked me for an update, I should have waited until I got some rest, but you all were so helpful and you deserve to know how this ended. I have added a TLDR at the bottom and please excuse any mistakes, I am exhausted. My ex came today to get his stuff, and some of you might be happy for what you are about to read, but he did not get a single thing back. When he saw me he started begging me to forgive him and, thanks to you again, I agreed to forgive him if he told me the truth. He just looked me straight in the face and said, if I'm going to be honest, you won't forgive me. My heart broke all over again, thinking about the worst of things. When he saw me cry, he told me I should get over it because she was already old, but if I really wanted her back, I should get back with him and when he trusts me that I really forgave him, I could see her again. I was exhausted, hopeless and angered, and even though I wanted my girl back, I could not look at him, let alone be with him for however long he thought it took me to forgive him. So he left, not telling me a single thing about Milo. I got a call some hours later and on the other end was a lady who found Milo on the side of the road. She told me she would wait for me to come, because when she wanted to pick her up she seemed to be in pain. When I got here and saw her, laying there, all my emotions flooded me. My sweet baby, even though she looked so different, was alive. She is now staying overnight at the vet, she has 2 broken ribs and is dehydrated. If everything goes well, she will be home soon. I appreciate each and every one of you that took the time to guide me in this nightmare. Thank you again. I will be pressing charges. TLDR, my baby is alive and will be home soon, I am pressing charges. Sum of comments. Commenter, I'm so glad Milo is okay. I had a feeling he did something horrible to her. This man is dangerous and has shown you who he is. Please be safe and never let him back into your life. This is massive stalker sociopathic behavior. Reply, thank you, we will never speak again. Commenter, agreed. I feel like he kicked her and broke her ribs and then she went away to hide. I don't think a car hit would have caused only broken ribs. That ex is a POS, deserves nothing in life. OP, good luck, best wishes to you and Ms. Milo. Reply, the vet does not think she was hit by a car. It will be on her file. Thank you. Commenter, did you have anything recording the conversation where he was trying to blackmail you into getting back together with him? Or have any of it over text? I hope to God you got it recorded somehow, he should rot. Reply, my friends recorded the whole interaction. Thank you. Someone offers OOP financial help. I appreciate the offer, but I can afford her care. Please donate to shelters, they need it. Thank you so much. Publicly out him. Me and the friends who posted on FB groups have edited the post after she was found and I made a separate post where I tagged him and his mom. Update. Last update for a while, I have pressed charges and I now have a lawyer. I unblocked my ex like some of you said and it was the best thing I did, he is incriminating himself and my lawyer believes we have chances of winning. Also, I might be able to get a protection order. His friend group has apologized. His mom is in contact with me. Milo will be home later today and she has very good chance of making a full recovery, at least physically. My locks will be changed tomorrow. Thank you all so much. I am sending you and your pets the warmest hugs. Some of comments. How is Milo doing? She is home. She still loves to cuddle with me and does not seem scared of my male friends, but she would rather not be close to them. Thank you for asking. To a downvoted commenter. I would rather not say what he did text me, but they range from him hurting me physically, being sorry that he did not do more to my girl and begging me to forgive him. Hope this answers your question. He definitely hit Milo. I know he hit her. He has been messaging me that he sold have done more. He is digging his own grave and I'm so thankful for that. OOP also posts next day. Hello everyone. My sweet girl is dealing with 2 broken ribs. Since she came back home, her breathing sounds weird. I am not sure how to describe it, but it seems like she is making an effort and sometimes looks uncomfortable. Is this normal? Her next vet appointment is tomorrow. Thank you. OOP clarifies. She has been to a vet and she is on pain meds. Thank you. Mini update a few days later in comments. She is doing as good as she can, but she does not like being pet on the left side at all. The main injury is still her ribs, but she was burnt with a cigarette in 3 different places. She is not scared of males, but she would rather not be close to them. He has not confirmed anything. His story is changing every day, ranging from, he has lost her, hit her by mistake and she ran, hit her harder that he thought he would and got scared that I would be mad, so he left her outside and being sad that he did not do more harm to her. I can't and will not trust anything he says, but he does help me a lot by sending me messages. Thank you for asking. Stories number 14. Aita for refusing to babysit my sister's kids for several weeks while she is on a baby moon with her boyfriend. My 28F sister Jamie, 38F, has 3 kids, Melanie, 11F, Sarah, 8F, and Carl, 5M, with her ex-husband, whom she divorced 6 months ago due to her cheating, with her current boyfriend, Daniel, 62M. Jamie's kids are absolute brats, and last time they came over, 3 years ago, Melanie smashed a vase and Sarah scribbled on my Uggs with permanent marker. This was when I decided to become child-free. I also decided to distance myself from them, though I do speak to them and we do have occasional family dinners at my aunt's place. Anyways, Jamie and Daniel are expecting a child, a boy, and they decided to go on a baby moon, which will happen in a week, and they are not very wealthy. Jamie spent nearly all of her money on the trip, and Daniel will work double shifts till then and after the baby moon to support both of them, so they did not hire a babysitter. Yesterday, Jamie unexpectedly called me and asked if I could babysit her kids. I said no, as I have been getting a degree online, and I have to fly to where my university is for my graduation ceremony. At first, she tried to persuade me, saying her kids are absolute darlings and I won't even notice they are there. I said that my answer was still the same, and then she went off in a rant and called me all kinds of shit, like that I'm a heartless bitch who can't have a little compassion for her poor, pregnant sister. I told her that if she wants somebody to work for her for free, she can actually get a job and not sleep with men who are literally old enough to be her father in the hopes that they are rich. She hung up, and is now bombarding me with texts begging me to reconsider. I am beginning to feel a bit guilty. Should I have been nicer to Jamie Aita? Relevant comments. Why didn't OOP's sister ask the father to take the kids? Reply, he lives in another country. The kids don't spend time with him, but he does pay child support. He only sees them when he flies to our country about once a year for maybe 2 to 3 weeks. OOP's sister should take the kids to where their father is and vacation there so he can look after the kids. Reply, bro, try and tell that to her. She is literally going to a tropical island which is a 5-hour flight from here, and if she had to go to her ex's country, she'd have to pay for a round trip of 12-hour flights for 2 adults and 3 kids, plus hotels, cabs, food, etc. And she'd have to take her kids, and not get the chill baby moon with her baby daddy that she wanted, because she'd have to take the kids and communicate with her ex. What about OOP's parents and other grandparents? Reply, my mom passed in a car crash 2 years ago, and my dad can't walk and has dementia. He is in an old folks' home. And Daniel's parents both passed, like 30 years ago, when he was in his 30s. Why did OOP's sister left her ex-husband for Daniel who is 62 years old? Reply, because Daniel faked being a millionaire business tycoon, and only after impregnating her, revealed that he was broke. And Jamie's ex-husband earned $200K, which is quite a bit, but of course, Jamie being the gold digger she is, cheated on him. Commenter, you need to get cameras if you don't have them, inform neighbors you've said no, and get it in text form between you and her that you aren't looking after them. If she does a dump and run on your doorstep, as I've seen happen too many times on here, then you're free and clear for when, not if, she tries to cry victim and how you agreed she can't be charged with child abandonment, etc. If you're still meant to be home the day she leaves, lie and say you're leaving days prior. If she thinks you're home she could dump and run. Reply, I actually just spoke to my friend who deals with home security. He is installing a camera tomorrow. I am also cutting Jamie off and considering a restraining order. Update. Last night, Jamie texted me she seemed upset. Apparently, she had to cancel her baby moon because I rudely denied the amazing opportunity to watch her kids. However, not everything from the canceled trip was fully refunded, so she demanded that I compensate with the rest, and also pay for a fully funded trip to Disney for her, Daniel, and the brats. She also sent me links to several things, such as a pack of Japanese, expensive, diapers, baby clothes, baby shoes, what baby needs mini ASICs that cost a bomb, and other stuff, totaling about $500. I didn't text back, and blocked her. Later, Daniel called me. I didn't pick up. At about midnight, Jamie showed up at my house and dropped Melanie, her 11-year-old off. Now I'm conflicted. Should I call the police and get Jamie in trouble, and possibly get Melanie in trouble with Jamie, or should I go to her house and sort this out myself? I really hope I don't have to make any more updates. Top comments. Commenter 1, did Melanie say why she was dropped off? Also honestly sounds like the relationship, between you and her, is over. I'd planned to go no contact. Reply, she said it was because her mommy needed her auntie to be a good aunt and watch a child for once in her life. The aunt is me. Commenter 2, NTA call the police, tell them your sister abandoned her child and that she's threatened to abandon all of her kids and disappear for multiple weeks whether you're available or agree or not. Let them come and get the niece and her face consequences. Unless you give her consequences she will continue abusing you, so it's the only way to stop this for good. Take actions. She broke the law abandoning her daughter when she knew you are against it, so let her face child services and the police for it. Commenter 3, NTA, she essentially just abandoned her child as a way of forcing a relationship with you. Letting her get away with this will only set a shitty future precedent where she will always feel okay with just dropping them off with no warning. Call the cops. If you're feeling generous, then text her that unless she picks up the kid in an hour, that you'll call the cops and CPS on her. Commenter 4, call the father and explain what is happening. If you can't get a hold of him or he won't come, call the police. Commenter 5, NTA. I'd immediately unblock and text her and the child's father and date. If they are not there in 30 minutes to pick up their child, then you'll call the police for child abandonment. You owe no obligation to watch her kids or refund her for any expenses. Also, inform the child that this is an adult situation and that you are sorry that her parents put her in the middle of it. Her parents will continue to make you the bad guy. Stories number 15. Wibta, if I didn't sell my house to friends. My house is for sale. It's being sold due to my marriage unexpectedly breaking down after I found out my husband, Adam, had been having a year-long affair and when caught, moved out. Adam has been a real POS in the aftermath, very justified, hostile and mean. It's been awful. Did I mention we have 2 kids? They are 3 and 1. I was pregnant the entire time he cheated. I digress. The house is in my name and is operating under a private sale. And right now there are a few parties competing for it. I'll sell it in the next 72 hours to clear our debts. Here's the kicker, his best friend, his best man, and his wife want to buy it. But they didn't tell me. They had the estate agent tell me. These are people who I have called friends for a long time, but when this affair broke out, they were sympathetic but then vanished in the last 6 months, ghosted me and the children, would be cordial when I ran into them, and I would be too, but other than that, no support. Now they are in a tight race with others to buy it and I find the entire scenario weird and deeply awkward. Why wouldn't they just call and tell me beforehand? Why get the agent to tell me? There's better ways to go about this. They aren't bad people. Just awkward. This is so shitty and emotional. But on a logical front, sell this damn house. So the offers are coming in and they're getting pretty tight money-wise and similar in terms. I told the agent that someone needs to differentiate and make a bigger offer so that I'm not splitting hairs. I am reluctant to sell to them as it's so weird and awkward. I feel like they're dancing on the grave a bit. I really want these other bidders. I don't know to get it because I don't want to make a decision. I don't really see these friends anymore, my husband does, and I can see it for what it is, despite it being really disappointing by them. Would I be the asshole if I went with these other people if the offers and terms were practically the same? Edited for paragraph breaks. Sum of comments. Commenter, you said to clear heart debts. Whose debts, your or husband's and yours? If the house is in your name, wouldn't it be better to divorce first and then sell? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but if it is also his debts, I would want to pay as little as possible. Reply: in my country it's common practice to settle on assets and then divorce once that's finalized. Our shared debts. Good question, smiley face. Commenter: milk every dollar you can put of whoever will pay and walk away. Reply: 100%. I told the agent to play them off against one another. This is for my kids and my future. Commenter: wow, these people suck. I can understand why you wouldn't want to sell to them. It's a real gut punch. However, if you refuse to sell to them, no matter what, they can paint you as the villain of the tale, which might very well give your ex an out with any remaining mutual friends and family. Sure, cheating's bad, but the truth is OP's a total bitch. Just look at how she's screwing over BFF. Make the sale strictly about who has the better offer, taking into account credit lines, cash offers, etc. Don't give your ex any ammunition to use against you. NTA, but be careful. Reply: you have clocked it. He's so morally bankrupt and such a crook, he looks for any avenue where he can pin something on me. It's wild to watch. So your suggestion isn't outrageous. Commenter: go with the best offer, but do not insult this couple along the way. If the other couple's financing falls through, you may need to go back and sell it to your former friends. Reply: I hadn't thought about this. Even though I wasn't, and am not about to, go on a public vendetta, not my style, I have thought that I just need to be civil, not give them much and just lean into, let them, Mel Robbins mantra. Update: for those who commented or upvoted my post, thank you for your supportive comments and advice. I got a high offer, it's close to $3 million, and it's from my ex's best friend and his wife. Fine. Obviously awkward and uncomfortable as hell, but fine, that's an incredible price and more money than I dreamed of this house fetching. It clears our mortgages and there's cash left over. The other buyers walk. I tell the agent, yes, sold. Let me know when the signed contracts come through. But I don't get a contract. The agent and I are on the phone all the time. He is communicating with me around the clock and it is reassuring. But I tell him I have a bad feeling, why don't I have a contract? He tells me that it's all in hand, they are finalizing some smaller details, it will come through shortly. And that's when the calls and messages start. The husband, let's call him Paul, is trying to reach out. He wants to speak. I avoid his calls and tell him I'm busy with the kids, any cues regarding the sale direct through to agent, I'm ready to sign. Paul says, no concerns commercially, we want to check if you're okay, call me. My agent says, you're right to have a bad feeling, they won't sign until you say you are okay with this sale. He says in 20 years of real estate he's never heard of such a thing. I tell the agent this is emotional blackmail. He says he has tried everything to convince them, but they insist on me saying it's okay. I feel shaky and sick. It's at this point that I very much can see that they are having a crisis of conscience. They have suddenly realized the optics aren't great around this. They know that this will invite a lot of judgment, and when it comes they need to have some good spin on it. I can picture them saying, how did she, me, feel about it? She was fine, she was just so relieved that another family was moving into it. Naturally we checked on her, I find all of this so gross, so I'm over a barrel. I'm about to lose $3 million if I don't tell them what they want to hear. It's too risky to call their bluff. I can't believe they let it get to this point and then throw this emotional condition into a commercial transaction, so I tell them what they want to hear only via text, so I'll don't have to speak to them. This forced message apologizes that I have been avoiding their calls as I've been overwhelmed with selling the house and I'm cool with it. I feel grubby, I don't lie, I really don't, but this is for my children. I send the text and within an hour my inbox gets the contract. I sign it. I receive a text from each of them thanking me and that my children and I are important to them and they would never have signed unless I was okay with it. Now I am waiting for the cooling off period to pass. Settlement isn't for 4 months. If they bailed between now and then, and of course they could, they would forfeit their $500,000 deposit. OOP's comments. Commenter: I'm sure they will find some way to rationalize making you the villain even if you try your best to not give them anything. People will always find ways to confirm their own beliefs. Don't base your decision on what they might say. Reply: they've bought the house, but even though I kept my distance they kept calling me for my blessing. I find it all really, really shitty and inappropriate. It's a business deal. Don't make it an emotional one. Reply: it gets my downvote too. Stories number 16. Aita for pointing out my girlfriend dresses like a homeless person and insisting she gets new clothes. I'm 23 finishing my last year for my master's. My girlfriend, Sarah, is 20 from the same university. Her parents are abusive, and they all grew up dirt poor. Now, Sarah is very beautiful. With no clothes on, she's literally the sexiest thing alive to me. The problem lies in the addendum with clothes on. She dresses like a fucking homeless person. Her clothes are all tattered with holes in it and worn out, they don't fit properly, and most of her outfits just plainly look ridiculous. She would wear red on red and look like a fucking period stain, and she gets them from the local Goodwill because it's the only thing she can afford. I'm genuinely embarrassed sometimes when she accompanies me to dates because I scratch my head thinking how someone so beautiful can show up looking so ugly. My parents and friends have commented on it too. Hell, just last weekend when we went to the pool, my mom said, "Wow, I didn't know your girlfriend was actually pretty, it's because she wore a plain bathing suit the whole time." I only mentioned the abuse thing because I feel like at some point growing up, her parents had to have been negligent to let their child leave the house looking like that. My parents are upper middle class. Because I got enough scholarships to go to school for basically free, my parents decided to give me $50,000 as a graduation gift that I never touched. I decided, hey, maybe I should help my girlfriend look presentable. So I gave her a $5,000 gift card for Macy's for our 1-year anniversary yesterday and told her that she can use it for a shopping spree. She was very grateful, but said she couldn't accept it. She gave me a watch and a card, which I loved and am very appreciative of. I asked her why not and she said it was too much. I told her it was just as much a gift for me as it was for her, and when she asked me to elaborate, I basically admitted that her clothes make her look like a homeless person and wanted to teach her how to dress and give her a new wardrobe. She actually got really offended at me and we had a huge fight. She accused me of finding her unattractive, which is absolutely not true. She just can't dress, and told me if I just wanted a trophy girl to look at, find someone else. I tried to be as sympathetic as I could, but frankly, I was pissed off at her reaction. I didn't even put the onus on her to buy new clothes. I gave her $5,000 to buy a whole new wardrobe, and she reacts like this? It was very inconsiderate, over-the-top reaction, especially considering I'm the one paying for it. My friends all agree with me that what she did was over the top, but my sister said she was probably embarrassed in the way I went about it and I was being a jerk. I truly don't see how I'm in the wrong at all in this situation. So Reddit, help me understand. Aita for offering to pay for a brand new wardrobe. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. YTA 100% unequivocally. LMFAO, you compared her to a period stain. The way you speak about her is appalling, but I'm not surprised by how narcissistic and egotistical you come off in your post. You fail to see why your girlfriend's feelings might be hurt. Take a step back, think of productive ways to address the problem, and stop acting like a fucking tool. Reply. I didn't compare her to a period stain to her face. I was just saying that to emphasize how bad she is at dressing up and how bad her clothes are. I truly think the people saying YTA just don't realize how bad she dresses. I get shat on all the time. It's not like, wow, she should probably choose a different outfit. It's more like, what the fuck, why is she wearing dresses with giant holes in it with tattered tennis shoes that don't get together? Commenter 2, YTA. Did it never occur to you that maybe she likes her clothes? Reply. She literally wears clothes with holes and admits she has absolutely no fashion sense. I've had 4 different friends on different occasions ask me why she's wearing what she's wearing. For example, one time, we went on a fancy dinner date, and she wore a tattered red dress shirt 3 sizes too big with a skirt with polka dots and looked just silly. I get I sound blunt rude in my post, but I'm trying to emphasize just how bad she dresses. Commenter 3. So that's a no, then. You can't imagine that she might actually like the clothing she has chosen. Reply. Commenter 4. I know people who like wearing dirty things with holes. You've talked about what you think about her clothes. You've talked about what your parents think about her clothes. You've talked about what your friends think about her clothes, but you don't seem to know or care what she thinks about her clothes. That's why YTA. Any response other than, I had previously asked her, and she said she didn't like her clothes, just makes you worse. Edit. I got a few comments already that I only mentioned looks so I'm the asshole, but why the hell would I mention things like how much I love when she kisses my cheek when she thinks I'm asleep, or that when she goes to the store and asks if I want anything and I say no, she'll still pick up something small just because, or the fact that we communicate amazingly and, for the most part, never have any major conflicts or any other non-appearance looking attribute. It just wasn't really relevant to the station at hand. Edit. I want to reiterate, I'd be fine with her shopping at Goodwill if she bought clothes that make her look presentable. I'm just saying her fashion sense is atrocious, mixed with the fact that she does tend to buy dingy clothes that tend to get rips holes in it easily. She never replaces her clothes, so she wears years-old hand-me-down clothes with a horrible fashion sense so she looks silly. I know me continuously reiterating just how silly she looks makes me sound like an asshole, but I literally get people comment on her fashion sense. Literal strangers comment on it. She looks genuinely ridiculous and I don't know how to emphasize just how bad she dresses without sounding like a tool. Last edit, I genuinely don't think people understand the extent, so I'm going to list some experiences I've had with her dressing like she does. The one I mentioned in the OP, my mom when she said, I didn't think she was actually pretty. I was hanging with some friends and some strangers, and when my GF went to the bathroom, a stranger said, it looks like she just came from panhandling. I've had a stranger ask if we had a costume convention we're going to. On 2 different occasions, I've had young children comment. The first said, why do you look so funny, and the second said, why do you dress so strange? I've had multiple different friends on multiple different occasions ask why does she dress so eccentrically. It's not just me acting like a dick or being shallow. It's a genuine problem. Also, I got banned for I can't reply to you directly, but I will say that she doesn't purposefully ruin her clothes. I'm certain she's either just unaware of how she dresses. A couple of abuse victims commented and said it was likely because they were abused and they share similar experiences as my girlfriend. Her wearing bad clothes isn't a fashion statement, I'm pretty sure she's just unaware. Verdict, asshole. Final edit next day. Edit, we have since talked and the problem is pretty much resolved. Update is at the bottom, thanks to the few people who helped me navigate this situation. Actual last edit, so I finally talked to my girlfriend, she's with me right now. Before I had a chance to apologize, she busted out crying. When she finally stopped, she was able to open up. Apparently, her parents were extremely abusive, even worse than I originally thought. Up until she was 18, she only had one outfit. Just one. Her parents had a ton of very weird, oddly specific ways to control their children, like for example, they tried to force her to be right-handed because she was a lefty, or they made her take only cold showers for mental fortitude. When she finally got from her parents' control, she had no idea how to dress. So she went to Goodwill and just bought a bunch of colorful clothes that looked neat. She had absolutely no experience in dressing herself, and she never really felt like she should ask, she just assumed one shirt plus one pants equals one outfit, regardless of the color, size, wear tear, etc. When I pointed out her style was strange, she got extremely defensive because she was never confronted with this before. She thought her sense of style was average, and when in previous attempts I tried to subtly bring up to wear a different outfit, she just thought that that outfit was bad. When I explicitly said in general, her style was bad, she just felt completely embarrassed. We're going shopping tomorrow and buying her a bunch of new clothes. I apologized for not bringing it up more tactfully and she insisted it was okay, and she probably wouldn't have gotten the hint if I kept being around the bush. Thank you for the people who, tactfully, told me how I was the asshole, and thanks to those who actually took my concerns seriously besides just completely dismissing me because they personally haven't had my experience. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NAH. Fuck it. I read through all OP's replies and edits and I decided to change my judgment according to OP. He gets countless people comment on his girlfriend's appearance, including having people be genuinely surprised when not in clothing, had complete strangers comment and say it looks like she just came from panhandling, had young children comment, children are brutally honest, had many people comment and ask, I don't think I'm particularly materialistic, but if that many people are commenting about her clothing choice, something is wrong. If one person did it, then he's an asshole. If 3, then they're assholes. But that many? I'm starting to think you may have a point in being embarrassed. You didn't approach it the best, but that can be blamed on your autism. Being autistic doesn't completely absolve you, but at the end of the day, you were trying to do a nice thing and just went about it completely terribly. I can't in good conscience keep my previous judgment. I do recommend talking to her obviously, but you said you planned to later. Good luck, I hope everything turns out well. Final comments. Commenter 1. I think the responses to this aren't fair, just because you didn't see ahead what some criticisms were going to be, doesn't mean that your responses aren't true. Reddit loves a bandwagon. I also don't think they're fair because I believe you wrote your post more harshly than you probably presented to her, but Reddit assumes the worst in that situation. Reply. I really think it's the tone I wrote it mixed with the abrasiveness tactlessness I approached the gift which made me sound like an asshole. Ah well. Stories number 17. Aita for not telling my boyfriend I'm good at Tetris. 18F here with 18MBF. We are freshmen in college. He is a big gamer, specifically loves League of Legends but only plays this when I'm not with him since it's time consuming. I, however, am not a gamer. The only games I've played are classic games like Pokemon, Super Mario, Mario Kart, etc. just fun games that are low commitment. However, I grew up playing Tetris with my dad and it was a great way for us to bond and I got really good at it. I told my BF I grew up playing Tetris but never played with him. Sometimes I play video games with my BF and I always lose, I don't care since it's only for fun and he knows I'm not as skilled as him. We were playing Call of Duty, something he's very experienced at while I have only played it a couple times since I don't have a game system for it. As expected, I kept losing but I still had fun and overall was a good sport about it. Then I asked him if he wants to play Tetris since we both had our laptops and can easily connect to battle. He agreed, still in a good mood from demolishing me in COD. I was excited to see his reaction since I was planning to go hard as soon as we started. We connected, the game began and I beat him in 2 minutes. I was laughing, not at him for losing but because he was surprised. But reading his face I quickly realized he was mad. He said let's go again, so we did. I beat him exactly the same way as the first round. He quietly started a new round, this time I felt bad and went slower, but seeing this, he force quit the game, took his laptop, and stormed off to play League. I was left there, my screen still on Tetris, just stunned he reacted this way. He said, I'm not gonna play against someone who's been playing for years, and started League, knowing he's gonna leave me alone for 45 minutes, average time per game, just in his room. I said, wait, you've been playing COD for years, I can't beat you at my game once. He scoffed and put his soundproof headphones on as his match or whatever was starting. I packed up my laptop and just went home without a word. He later texted about 3 hours later with, so no call or update with where you are or what you're doing. Probably playing Tetris or something so you make sure you win. I simply replied, I'm just at home. He's blown up my phone with 40 plus calls that I've been dodging. Aita for beating him at a game I'm actually good at. Relevant comments. To a deleted comment. Reply. I was actually considering breaking up over this because it showed how truly immature he is but felt a bit irrational and emotional, but I think you're right. Commenter 2. You feel guilty about feeling that way, that's fine. It doesn't change reality, though. Sometimes your gut feelings and intuitions prove themselves later in a very strong way. Commenter 3. Do it. I'm unbeatable at Connect 4. Never had a guy behave like that. Usually he buys the game, we play for 30 minutes tops, I win, and we don't play ever again. This has happened like 3 times. He is a child mentally if he can't handle losing. I wouldn't be surprised if he can't share either. I would look for a good breakup album to get you through. I think Hyam's first album would help. It's all about girl power and doing the breaking up. Good luck lady. Reply. Wow, he actually doesn't like sharing food, like snaps at me if I try to take a chip or 2 from him. God, I hate this thread because I feel so stupid for falling for a guy like this but realize how truly toxic he is. I'll be sure to check that album out, like, very soon. Thanks for the recommendation. Commenter 4. NTA. His fragile masculinity isn't your responsibility. It's totally fine to surprise him with some sick Tetris skills. Reply. For some reason I felt like there was a chance I was also a jerk in this because at least in the games we played, I knew beforehand he was good. But you're totally right that his masculinity is too fragile over a Tetris game. Commenter 5. You'd think with you guys both playing games and it being important to him, he'd be excited to find out there was a game you were great at and enjoyed playing. Instead his childish ego got in the way. It will probably also get in the way of a lot of his other thinking and decision making. You're right about considering cutting loose. Reply. My exact thoughts. I was hoping he'd be happy to finally have some competition because my older brothers and dad love when I'm actually a challenge for them when it comes to games. Commenter 5. NTA. He's acting like a petulant child and does make me wonder what else can be underneath this reaction. Is because he lost? Sore loser. Is because he's the gamer? Then he's gatekeeping and has a very fragile ego. Is because you are a girl? Sexist. I know it seems like I overthinking but as a girl gamer, I've been through those sort of things, not with BF specifically but still. Lastly, how the hell do you play Pokemon without committing? Like, every time I pick it up a Pokemon game it consumed my soul. Reply. Completely forgot sexism could be a factor, thanks for bringing that up. I thought it was mainly gatekeeping but it could very well be a combination of all the reasons you listed. And lol, I'll admit Pokemon can definitely consume my soul, I just have not picked it back up after the Diamond and Pearl generation since I kinda felt it got complicated after that haha. Commenter 6. NTA, very immature and even if he doesn't know it or mean it, it's borderline abusive. Reply. My friends think this is abusive as well but I wasn't sure they said this because they're my friends, thank you for the unbiased insight. Commenter 7. NTA what a baby. God damn, I bet he's an awful teammate in League 2. Reply. In the past he told me he got banned a couple times and didn't say why. Till games have a better understanding of guys than me. Commenter 8. Nta sounds like a big red flag. Reply. Unfortunately through rose-colored glasses all the red flags look like regular flags, thanks Bojack. I'm in the process of thinking how to break up safely, his short temper is worrying me. Commenter 9. NTA this is 2 massive red flags. Hell I would break up over this. Not only does he get pissed at you, he is still angry at you hours later and continues to blame you. 40 plus calls. No matter what he says that is not being caring, that's controlling, stalking stuff. At best he's a man-child with a fragile ego who doesn't respect you and needs to be in charge and in control of your life. At worst you've yet to see his true abusive side. How would you feel if your friend's sister dated a guy like that? How does your hopefully ex-BF compare to your dad or any good guy that could compare him to? Whatever you do, use your brain and don't stick around because you're lonely or because he falsely tries to guilt-trip gaslight you. Reply: I just told him. How would you feel if your mom dated a guy behaving as you are? Separated parent household, but his mom has a long-term BF. He said that's irrelevant because his parents don't play games, so he is completely missing the point. I am wondering how to break up with him safely. He is being way out of line and I'm afraid his short temper will put me in danger. Verdict: not the asshole. Update: I broke up with him through text after realizing this would be the last straw. He begged for me back and said he had a bad day, but lately every day has been bad and carrying this emotional burden is too much and taking a mental and academic toll on me. He said this is making him suicidal and said if he dies it's my fault. Blocked him on everything and he began contacting my friends, who I told to block immediately if they received any messages from him. I told my brother I was scared because he had violent tendencies and he gave me a pepper spray. We went outside our house so he can show me how to use it, and I saw a car outside that looked just like my now ex's, but it wasn't him and I just broke down crying because I'm so scared. I'm going to talk to campus police tomorrow to let them know my situation. I'm also worried that if he kills himself if I have any legal implications, but I have screenshots of our conversations if need be. Thank you to everyone for your kind advice. I was truly blinded by this asshole and hope you guys have partners with a healthy competitive drive. Stories number 18. Aita for giving crappy Christmas gifts and ruining my marriage. I, 31F, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, M33, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. STBX insisted that they're just putting up a tough exterior and they'll grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time I joined them for dinner and brought a cake I'd made, because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back. When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her and all of a sudden the crocodile tears started and she claimed she grabbed the plate but didn't get a good grip. I let go too quickly, and it fell to the floor, so of course it had to be thrown away. My SAL confirmed that was what happened. My STBX owned his own business and they called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course they insisted on a prenup, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end and it would appease them and may allow them to finally treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own trying to keep it afloat. I refused to go into debt to keep it going, so he closed it down. In 2022, he was suffering from really bad depression because he lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so he had a larger support network. Against my best judgment we did. He wanted to only work part-time while he tried to restart his business, so I became the main breadwinner. And as with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid old me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see I wanted to be accepted by them. Gifts to us were a couple's gift, but clearly for my STBX only. Every holiday was spent with them. Monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet, so I just stopped talking when I visited. In early December they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later my STBX said his family decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe. I replied, fine, we'll do our own thing instead. My STBX sheepishly looked away and said he was still going to go. I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment I knew my marriage was over. So I returned the presents I had bought for his family. In their place, I got one pair of novelty business socks for FIL, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for MIL, the nastiest perfume I could find at the dollar store for SIL. The most expensive gift was a large rawhide bone for BIL and his wife's chihuahua, too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put on a deposit for a new apartment. My husband come home from Christmas lunch telling me I humiliated him and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why would he think I buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around. Served divorce papers last week. Remember how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now, so we had that prenup. STBX is not eligible for any of my savings. It was required to keep separate accounts, or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent and auto insurance. Not my problem anymore. Some of my friends and family and on my side and proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me I was being way too petty, which isn't really like me. So, Aita, some of comments. Commenter, I would say be glad you did not have children with him. Be glad you can escape and be free with no strings. P.S. This relationship should be a learning lesson on the love that you want for yourself and the life you want. Not as a loss. Reply, first thing I did after I moved into my new apartment was adopt an older car from the shelter. He was allergic and I couldn't never adopt one since we first started living together. We're just two old hags living our best lives after being rejected. Commenter, you're not old, silly. So glad you're enjoying the company of an older cat. Car is interesting but not as cuddly, who appreciates you and will show that far more than STBX ever did. Reply, doh. Just notice the typo, keeping it in because it's actually hilarious. Beep beep. Commenter, NTA. He chose his family over you and still expected you to buy all the presents. This was perfectly planned and well deserved for every one of them, including him. Reply, he only worked 12 hours a week at Walmart till he could do non-existent work restarting his business. I make just over 6 figures and I can't believe I didn't realize years ago I was the family ATM. Commenter, so thoughtful of them to insist on a prenup. I hope you send them a sincere thank you note after the divorce is finalized lol. Reply, my lawyer even laughed that the prenup that was set up for him is going to be what we use for me. It required both spouses to maintain separate bank accounts and each spouse could keep 100% of their savings. No spouse eligible for alimony. Update post. Many thanks to everyone for their support in my last post. I thought I'd send a small update. First, for those who asked how the deposit on my new apartment was only the $600 I saved on the gifts, it certainly wasn't. I had to dip into savings, but that $600 helped. My STBX didn't bother reaching out to me after I left until he was served the divorce papers and my lawyer made it clear we're exercising the prenup. Then it was loving voicemails and texts, I never picked up, from him and his family for a few days trying to convince me to come back, which eventually turned to threatening and cruel voicemails and texts when it was clear I wasn't budging. My lawyer suggested I don't block them so we have evidence of harassment, if needed. Basically, give them the rope to hang themselves with. But then last night I got call after call from my STBX. Stupidly, I picked it up thinking there was some kind of emergency or something. I barely got hello out when he said, the rent is a week late. I told him that's strange because I paid my landlord 6 days ago. He paused and sighed dramatically and replied, no, the rent for here. I reminded him I don't live there and he shouldn't expect rent. Cue his parents both texting me that they're going to sue me to pay the remainder of the lease entirely. I'm not worried about having an eviction on my record, since the apartment is in his parents' names. When we first announced we were moving to his hometown, they rented an apartment for us right away so we could move right in. They've been renewing the lease each year. We had to pay his parents and then they write a check to the landlord, who has no idea who STBX and I are, let alone that we live there. Red flag, I know. I'm glad I had a few weeks to prep my leaving since they'd probably use the fact that it's their apartment to kick me out immediately. Divorce is probably going to be a bumpy ride with this man-child and his psycho parents. Any advice from anyone who's been through it is welcome. Some of comments. Commenter, do you even have a contract at the place your STBX is living? I don't think they have a basis for suing you, lol. What does your lawyer say? Reply, lawyer is confident they have no leg to stand on. I haven't signed any type of lease and utilities are in their name, too, because they were afraid of having too many names connected to the apartment and the landlord finding out. So they are on the hook for everything that doesn't get paid. But, hey, that was their choice and their scheming FAFO. Stories number 19. Aita for wanting a family heirloom that was accidentally promised to both me and my sister. My grandmother is about to move into assisted living. Because of this, she is getting rid of most of her stuff from her current home. My sister, 23F, and I, 25FTM, get first choice on many of the things my grandmother is getting rid of. My grandmother owns a piano that used to be her mother's. It is something my family has cherished for a long time. I am a musician and when I started going to school for a music degree my grandmother promised me that she would give me the piano either when she passed or when she moved into assisted living. Last week I found out that she had also promised the piano to my sister a while back. This wasn't malicious or intentional on my grandmother's part. Her memory is no longer the best and she did not realize she had promised it to both of us. My sister and I are now trying to figure out who gets the piano. My sister argues that she should get the piano because she has a long-term partner and they want their future kids to learn to play the piano on my grandmother's piano. I argue that I should get the piano because I'm the only one who is actually a musician so I would already be using it long before my sister and her partner have children. My mother says I shouldn't want the piano because I am a vegan and the piano has ivory, therefore making me a bad vegan if I keep the piano. My response to that would be I didn't buy this extremely old piano and it is a family heirloom that means a lot to me. We haven't brought this dilemma up to my grandmother because she has declared that if we cannot decide who gets something of hers she will sell it without question, and no one in my family wants this piano to be sold. It feels like my family is on my sister's side and they think I am being selfish for wanting this piano even though I am realistically the person who would use it the most. So, AITA for wanting this precious family heirloom. Top comments. To OOP's knowledge, was the piano promised to OOP first before his sister before their grandma's diagnosis? And if there is a solution to make sure the piano is kept in the family? Reply, yes, she promised me the piano before she promised it to my sister. Her memory was better at the time. She is not diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's, but she is certainly more forgetful than she used to be. I definitely think my family is excited about the fact that my sister plans to have children and they want her children to have access to the piano. However, I would gladly give my sister's children access to the piano if I am the one to keep it. I do not plan to hoard this piano and never let another family member have access to it. I just would like it in my possession because it is meaningful and I would get a lot of use out of it. I do hope my sister and I can come to a resolution because as much as I want the piano, I care about my sister more. Commenter 1, I think the best compromise is for you to have the piano to use until your sister has children, if she has them. You can teach them to play piano on that piano, and if they stick with it, the piano is theirs. It's not fair for the piano to be unused until her hypothetical children maybe one day play it. Commenter 2, hahaha alright bad vegan, you're NTA. I think the genuine compromise is that you take it until she has children who are old enough to play, who knows if they even end up liking to play or if she gets tired of the noise because her little humans are a lot of work. Then the piano could go back to you once they stop using it. Both get it and it doesn't sit unused to her hypothetical rugrats. A cute bonding moment would be that their uncle gets to teach the kids to play on a family heirloom. Update. To summarize, my grandmother is moving into assisted living and is giving away most of her possessions. She accidentally promised her piano to both me and my sister and we both wanted this piano. The update, I talked to my grandmother about the situation. Originally, my sister and I kept it between ourselves because my grandmother promised to sell any item we argued over. However, I wanted my grandmother's insight. My grandmother felt guilty about accidentally promising the piano to both me and my sister. We discussed the pros and cons of me keeping the piano or giving it to my sister. In the end, we decided it would be best if my sister kept it because the piano hasn't been maintained very well and my sister mostly wants it because of its sentimental value. My grandmother told me that if I let my sister keep the piano she would buy me a piano that is in better condition. I am beyond grateful for this. My grandmother decided to talk to a friend about this situation and they informed her that they have a piano that they are trying to get rid of and the piano is in good condition. My grandmother said she will pay for the cost of the piano as well as the cost of moving the piano. I offered to pay myself but my grandmother said that she has the money and doesn't mind paying and to consider is an apology for starting an argument between me and my sister. Overall, this turned out a lot better than I expected. My sister and I both get a piano and a family heirloom gets to stay in the family. Thanks for all of the advice. Top comments. Commenter 1, super glad it went to the sister. She sees it as a family heirloom versus OP who just wanted a piano in general. Reply, well, I see it as a family heirloom as well but I also wanted a piano that I can play. I didn't want her to sell it because it is meaningful to me so I'm happy it's still in the family. Commenter 2, she sounds awesome. It's easy to make the mistake she did. But she found a great solution. Commenter 3, I think that it was really awesome you went back to talk to your grandma about this, recognizing that this could potentially cause her stress, which no one wants. And that you, your sis and basically the whole family came to a resolution. I have been through this myself, and I know without a doubt that your grandma would want all issues resolved now instead of after she passes. No grandma wants to feel responsible for leaving unclear instructions that result in family members fighting. Which is why my grandma started putting colored sticky notes on stuff with the name of her intended recipient. Every trip to visit was a bit sadly comical. Go grab a glass to fill with water and see a sticky stuck inside the cabinet door indicating that cousin X will get the juice cups. No worries Oma, I respect your decisions and I won't steal the juice cups out from my cousin. When you raise kids to the best of your ability to treat them fairly your entire life, and then they in turn raise their families to do the same, no kid or grandkid questioned my grandma and grandpa's choices. We respected their decisions. End of story. Stories number 20. AITA for not allowing my son to go to his paternal grandparents' anniversary barbecue because his father's stepchildren will be there. I, 33F, have a 7-year-old son with my ex, 35M. Almost a year ago I was given full custody of our son and my ex was awarded supervised visitation. The reason for this was the abuse our son was suffering at the hands of his father's stepchildren, 12 and 13. This was a very difficult battle to win. It started 3 years ago when my son came home from his father's house and my ex announced he'd gotten remarried over the weekend and he wanted me to pay half toward the clothes he bought our son for the wedding because they got ruined. Of course I didn't pay half, but I did ask why he expected me to pay and why the clothes were ruined. He said he felt like we should split the cost of big items like that. Then he refused to answer how they got ruined. Later that evening when I was bathing my son I noticed some bruises on him and it made me suspicious. He mentioned his arms hurt and that the big kids had done it. A few weeks later my ex called me and asked me to come and calm our son down. He said our son was hysterical and he had been unable to calm him. When I got to his house our son was still crying and wanted to come home with me. My ex's wife said one of her kids had accidentally stepped in my son's foot and my son got scared, but I could hear one of her kids in the background calling my son names and saying they wanted to shut him up. Over time things got worse. There were more bruises and more days where my son would get very upset at his dad's house. I spoke to my ex who said his stepkids were taking it bad that their mom had remarried and that they had lost their dad only 4 years prior and it was difficult for them. He said he and our son weren't their favorite people, but he said it wasn't a big deal. I decided to document these incidents and injuries anyway because it appeared to me my ex was not concerned and our son could be at risk in his home. As my son got bigger he'd verbalize more and more about what was going on. The stepkids treated him like shit and were not embarrassed or ashamed to be rough with him. He'd get pushed and grabbed and a lot of these accidents were happening. I put in a few calls to CPS and they started to offer resources. It pissed off my ex but I was worried for my son. The verbal incidents weren't on CPS's radar really but the physical stuff they also documented and some of my ex's family had witnessed things and a few even sent me rundowns about what happened. The incident that brought us to me getting full custody was my ex and his wife leaving the 3 kids home alone for hours together and the step-kids dragged my son out of the house and locked him in the garage on his own where all the dangerous tools were held. My ex tried to fight for his right to retain custody but CPS and the judge agreed it was not safe for our son. The reason he only gets supervised visits is his step-kids are not allowed around my son. My ex's parents are celebrating their wedding anniversary next month and they want my son there. But my ex and his family are invited and will be attending. I told them I could let them do something with him another time but if the step-kids are there my son won't be. They, along with my ex's oldest brother, feel like I'm being unfair and too strict and not trusting them to keep my son safe. But he wasn't in the past. I know that for a fact. Stories number 21. We weren't an entitled family. In 1973 my parents took my almost 17-year-old sister and my 13-year-old self on a road trip from our home near Seattle all the way to San Diego and back. We stopped and stayed near Disneyland for a few days. Every day we ate at the same chain restaurant near the park. We were there in late June like about 10 million other families, about 2 million of them trying to eat at this same place, with long lines going out the door. We totally understood and waited patiently for a table. I think we'd only eaten there 2 or 3 times when we suddenly found ourselves being urged forward by the staff. At first my parents tried to refuse, saying we'd wait like everyone else, but they were insistent. So, naturally, we accepted even though we felt apologetic about it. I think this happened because my dad was a good tipper and we were pleasant people who rarely complained. So, if you've ever read about an entitled family who were too important to wait like everyone else near Disneyland in late June of 1973, it might have been us, but we weren't entitled. Stories number 22. AITJ for refusing to loan my expensive camera to my friend for her vacation. I, 28M, have been into photography for years, and I recently invested in a high-end DSLR camera and lenses. It's not just a hobby for me, I sometimes do freelance gigs, and my equipment is worth several $1,000s. My friend Jessica, 27F, is planning a vacation to Europe and mentioned she wanted to take better photos than what her phone could manage. A few days ago, she casually asked if she could borrow my camera for her trip. I immediately said no, explaining that the camera is expensive, fragile, and requires some knowledge to use properly. Jessica said she's careful with things and that it's not a big deal because it's just sitting there while I'm not using it. I stood firm and told her it wasn't personal, I just don't loan out my camera to anyone. Jessica got upset and said I was being selfish and paranoid. She even joked, "What's the worst that could happen? It's not like I'm going to drop it in the ocean or something." Since then, she's been a bit distant and has told a few mutual friends that I'm stingy and not supportive. One friend even said, "You could have let her borrow it, it's not like you'd need it while she's gone." I feel bad that Jessica is upset, but I also don't think I should risk my expensive equipment for her vacation photos. So AITJ for refusing to loan my camera to my friend. Stories number 23. My 25F. Parents have chased away every boyfriend I have ever had. How do I prevent this from ruining my relationship with my current BF, 28M? I was very shy during high school and didn't leave my house unless I had to, so as a result I didn't get a boyfriend until my freshman year of college. After 7 months of dating my first ever BF, I brought him to my parents' house for dinner, just so they could meet him. I had to step away for roughly 10 minutes to help my older sister with her baby, and when I came back, my BF, then 20M, and my dad, old, were having a full-blown fist fight. We managed to stop them and my BF stormed off without saying anything, while my dad insisted my BF was incredibly rude and disrespectful to him and my mother and that a guy like that was no good for me, because he'd just end up doing the same thing to me. I was shocked that my BF could do such a thing because he had always been extremely sweet and I've never met or heard of anyone not liking him, but when I called him and told him what my dad had said about what happened, all he did was laugh and say I can believe whatever I want, before blocking me on everything. I was deeply disturbed by this, but my mom and sister insisted that he had just shown his true colors and said my dad saved me from an abuser. I reluctantly accepted this, but something about it felt really off. I met my second boyfriend several months later, during my sophomore year. Part of me still felt my parents were part of the problem with my last BF, so I managed to get him to wait an entire year before introducing him to my parents. From the moment she laid eyes on him, every word my mom spoke to him was dripping with fake friendliness and subtle jabs implying she did not approve of him, which made him visibly uncomfortable. While we were eating dinner, she began asking me what made me decide to date my BF, and asked about other guys and why they didn't work out. Some of the guys she asked about were completely made up. At this point it was clear what they were trying to do, and I silently vowed to talk to my BF and tell him how my parents were trying to sabotage me. Unfortunately, it didn't get that far, as my dad chipped in and demanded to know how a boy, who couldn't support himself financially, was ever going to support his daughter. Mind you, we were both juniors in college at this point, and both of us were working part-time jobs, so this question was really insane. He responded by saying he'd already decided he wanted nothing to do with this family and was planning to break up with me when he got home, but he's just going to leave now. Within minutes, he was gone, and I was blocked again. My parents insisted they did nothing wrong and just wanted to test his confidence as any parents would, but I pointed out that this was the second boyfriend they chased away, and they didn't do anything to scare off my older sister's husband. I went low contact with them after that, but fast forwarding a little bit, I eventually allowed them to gaslight me into introducing them to my third boyfriend, whom I had met towards the end of my senior year, and basically the same thing happened. I had made it through college unable to find a long-term BF, purely because of my parents. I did meet my current BF, 28M, 2 years ago, and I have managed to avoid introducing him to my family thus far. If he ever brought it up, I would always have a ready-made excuse prepared to explain why it wasn't possible, which has been pretty easy because he usually only asks about them when planning for major holidays. I have fallen madly in love with him and hope to start a family with him one day, but he recently told me that he can't even allow me to move in with him until he's had a chance to meet my family. I do not know what to do, as I know my parents will make it their mission to break us up if they meet him, but based on his insistence on meeting them, I realize I can't put this off any longer. Usually, relationships end because of something one person in the relationship says or does, and it's incredibly unfair that I always end up single because of things I cannot control. I want to tell my BF about my parents and insist that meeting them is a bad idea, but I've listened in on some of his conversations with his friends, and the general consensus among them seems to be that a girl with a super dysfunctional family is a massive red flag, and an indicator of what their married life would be like. So I come here asking, how do I approach the problem that is my parents without risking losing the longest relationship I've ever had? If my parents end up being the cause of yet another breakup, I just don't know what I'll do. I just don't know. Edit. Wow, I made this post about an hour before going to bed, but woke up to quite a few comments here. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped me realize what I need to do. I've read through all of the comments and saw some recurring questions come up that I wanted to address. I am not fully no contact with my parents primarily because they helped me a lot financially during college and when I first graduated and was looking for a job. When I went low contact with them, they constantly yelled at me for being ungrateful and said family does not turn on each other over minor disagreement involving boys. It sounds ridiculous when I type it here, but after months of this treatment, when I found myself faced with the decision to either tell them I forgive them so they'll pay for my dorm room, or refuse to forgive them and have to move back home, I ended up caving. Why didn't I stand up for my past BFs when I saw them being verbally abused? I don't know. I've never been allowed to talk back to my parents, so the thought of calling them out while we have company over is not something I realized I could do, I guess. My arguments with them after they ran off BF2 and 3 were the only times I've ever come into full conflict with them in my entire life. I will be going to my BF's house today after work, and will tell him everything. I am terrified he will still want to meet them, just thinking about it has me shaking at my desk, but you all are right, he has a right to know and make his own decision. Stories number 24. My dad finished off my biological dad and my mom doesn't know. Apologies for the title. My dad ended my biological dad. For context, I am adopted at birth and I consider the people that raised me my real parents. I will also some details for obvious reasons as this is a throwaway. Also some details may be confused as this was a drunken confession by my father after a long night and family problems, but I know him and the broad details are true, the more exact might be a bit off. Also he told me this about 6 years ago. This happened in the early 2000s. So my parents had been trying to have a kid for almost a decade. After multiple miscarriages and heartache, my parents couldn't have kids anymore. My father came home after work in the hospital to find my mother laying in a blood-covered bed. After a quick drive back to the hospital they found she had a miscarriage and ruptured an artery. They could save her but she would never be able to have kids. So after a good recovery my parents decided since we can't have kids let's just party and have fun. They went on a cruise, bought a Corvette, the whole 9 yards. Well my mother worked a gov job, that's all you need to know, and when they got back from the cruise a colleague of hers asked if she was still interested in having a kid. She said yes but why, and the colleague told her there is a kid that will be born shortly and the father has had multiple warrants and the mother can't raise the kid. They were druggies and both had a lengthy rap sheet. So she talked to my dad and they agreed they would adopt me. A few weeks go by and the proper paperwork had been done and I was born. My parents were there the day I was born. When I was born, one of the nurses who knew I was an adoption baby told my parents to take me and run as soon as they could because I was a blonde-haired blue-eyed baby. I guess that was a big deal back then, IDK. So that's what they did. As soon as they could, they brought me home. Well bio parents have 3 months to change their mind from giving away their child. It had been 2 months from when my parents got me and they couldn't have been happier but my dad receives a phone call one day from my bio dad. Bio dad wanted me back and told my dad he was going to get me back and to meet him somewhere and sign some paperwork and hand me over, something along those lines. So my dad goes okay, meet me here at some place, near a lake. My dad never told my mom about this either. He said he had never seen her this happy and would do anything to keep her happy. So my dad and bio dad meet one night at some place. My dad never gave me more details than that but the last thing he said before he ended the conversation was, we never heard from her, my bio mom, again, and he's probably still at the bottom of the lake. I could tell by the look on his face he meant it. Now please keep in mind that neither moms were involved. My mom don't know about this and I don't care what my bio mom thinks knows. My dad and I have never talked about it since and that's all I know. Thank you. Stories number 25. Aita for slapping my brother after he gave away the money he promised me to his wife. My brother is 27M and I am 20F. I don't want to sound entitled but I am entitled to the money he promised me. Our parents had funded his business and he promised to give me money for my higher education and I can't even ask my parents cause they don't have money but my brother does. A few days ago I went to my brother and told him that I need money for my education and I need him to pay fee and help me a bit with other expenses. He said he can't cause he used all his money to fund his wife's new business and he asked me to wait a while. I told him that I can't wait, it's going to cost me a whole year and he said he can't help right now. I lost my cool cause my parents gave all their money to my brother and I didn't have a problem with it. We were wishing that he would become successful and help us and he promised to help me find my education. I told him that he promised me and it's not just his money, it's mine as well, and we all trusted him, but now he is betraying me and you don't have money. You should have saved up for me, I am your sister, but you compromised my education, betrayed me and our parents. He still said he doesn't have money, he invested all he had in his wife's business. I got so angry I slapped him and said that I don't need his help anymore and consider me dead. He can keep being his wife's slave and do her bidding. He grabbed my hand and tried to stop and talk to me but I didn't listen to him and I left. I no longer care about my brother, to be honest. FK him. I thought it was his love that he cared so much about his wife, but now I know he's being used. But I am so stressed about my future, I don't know what to do, and deep down I still care for my brother. He used to help me so much and now I am wondering what happened to him. Update. I know I will get a lot of mean comments on my post, like on my previous, and I am prepared, and I also agree that I shouldn't have slapped my brother, but I was angry cause he almost jeopardized my career and I was angry. I decided to talk to my grandparents because I need money and I was relying on my brother to help me this whole time. My parents shared my share of inheritance with him and we were thinking that he will help us, me during my college, but he backed out. I told my grandparents everything and they sided with me. my grandpa was angry and he said that my brother already got his inheritance from our parents so he won't get anything from them, and he said his share of inheritance will go to me, to my college fees and other expenses and whatever I would like to do next. To be honest, this whole thing has been a blessing in disguise cause the amount of money I will get from my grandpa far surpasses than what I would have gotten from my parents. My grandpa lectured him a lot and told him that he betrayed me and he should have been taking care of me instead of his wife, and told him all his money is going to me. The lecture lasted a long time. But my brother later called me and said I should have trusted him and waited a while instead of complaining to our grandparents. I told him I don't care anymore. I trusted him once but he broke my trust and he should be helping his sister not his wife when you both are already comfortable. I told him that I am sorry for hitting him and if he wants to call police on his 7 years younger sister he can, but now on our sibling bond ends here. I will focus on my life and build my own career way better than his. My brother tried to reconcile but I didn't believe him and told him to FK off. Stories number 26. Daughters vamping at school. I have 3 daughters. 15, 16, and 17 years old. Today at work, I got a call from their school. It was the principal. She informed me that she walked in on all 3 of them vamping together. I thought I was dreaming. I expected much better from them. I stayed home today. So I chose to look through their rooms. I used to always respect their privacy up until this moment. I found a phone I didn't even realize was in my middle child's room. It didn't have a passcode so I went through it. Apparently she had a boyfriend from another state I didn't know about. I don't mind her dating but her hiding it from me broke my trust. I found a diary in my youngest room. I don't know the passcode to it though. My oldest had a lot of valets and even alcohol in there. I messaged my youngest. She admitted she did it out of pressure from her sisters. She told us her sisters have, if it matters, our oldest works at McDonald's and our middle works at Dunkin' Donuts, also vaped at work, and our middle almost got fired for it. My husband is freaking out about this. Where did we go wrong? We constantly give them unconditional love, we don't force them to do anything, and we never expose them to any kind of substances. I don't understand why they started doing it. They get home in an hour. Please help. How do I talk to them? Info, because people were wondering a few things I'll answer. I don't think she knows her boyfriend in real life. My middle child has sent pictures, not nude pictures, but inappropriate to say the least. These aren't a few vapes I found. I found at least 5 alcohol bottles under my eldest's bed, and nearly 100 vapes hidden inside my eldest's room. All of my children have phones. But I've never seen this before. I never purchased this. She never informed me about this. My children have never had behavioral issues. They were always well behaved. My oldest has had some issues back in middle school but has been fine since. My youngest is in honor society and is her grade's class president. They should be home in around 10 minutes. Their bus is extremely late. Edit, they are officially 2 minutes away. I will be updating on this. Final update, I appreciate everyone's commentary. I have spoken to my children. Here is what happened. My 2 oldest kids have received ISS for a week, however my youngest was able to get her way out of it. I have taken my middle child's phone, both of them. We both mutually agreed to delete her Snapchat account, delete TikTok, and deactivate her Instagram account. She admitted she has been wanting to do so for some time. My middle child blocked her boyfriend. She says she knows he never downloaded or screenshotted her nudes because Snapchat shows you if they do. I spoke to her about internet safety. My oldest is not a dealer. She told me she's been addicted for a while. She was afraid to admit to me, but she's been experiencing major anxiety and depression. I listened to her. Me and her father decided to sign her up for therapy and rehab. She's okay with this decision. My youngest is not going to be removed from honor society or student government. I spoke to all of them about the dangers of drugs drinking. They understand. All of them are taking a break from social media. My middle understands why I went through her phone. Everything is in the trash. All the vapes and drinks. We have made a promise to no longer hide secrets. However, trust will still need to be built. My middle told me she paid for the phone herself. Everything is okay now as we speak. My kids are eating healthy together in my oldest's room, having a good time, laughing. No phones, no drugs, nothing. They will receive their phones back soon. Almost forgot to add, my middle told me those pictures were fake. They were found online. She found someone with a similar body type and skin tone to hers and sent them. I appreciate all of the comments helping me. Thank all of you so much. Stories number 27. Art of Seduction is truly the most dangerous book I've ever read. I have a love-hate relationship with that book. Part of me wishes that I never read it. It allowed me to see the layers beneath the actions people do. Whether their motivations were good or bad, this book just makes you understand people better. It's a double-edged sword. This book has magnified my empathy. It has made it much harder for me to get angry at people. Because my brain just defaults to, well, this person did this because of XYZ, given I have enough info, so like yeah whatever. This book took away the part of me that can feel just unfiltered, raw, raging, anger. Why? Because this book makes you understand humans better, on a much deeper level. I have tried reading other books on human behavior after this, but they all just seem tame in comparison, and they make sense. Part of me is like, ignorance is bliss. The other part says, even though it's hard to stomach, it's better to know than not. Anybody else feel this way? Edit, other Green's books I've read, 48 Laws, 50th Law, Mastery, and currently reading LOHN. Stories number 28. My SIL F31 disinvited my wife F28 from her baby shower after a joke, but my brother M35 still wants me M30 to go. I am stuck in the middle. I am 30 recently married the love of my life F28, and I'm super close with my brother M35. We always imagined our families being close too, until one single lunch ruined everything. So, my wife and I went out to eat with my brother and my SIL F31, who is pregnant and about to give birth to my first nephew. Needless to say, we are all very excited. Mid-meal, my brother, probably feeling sentimental, goes, "Man, I hope the baby turns out like me. He was such a cute kid." Now, a bit about my SIL. She's usually nice and I like her, but she's definitely type A and a bit high maintenance. Without missing a beat, she shuts my brother down. "No, I'd much rather he turns out like you." A bit of an awkward comment, and my brother probably thought so as well, so he goes, "No, seriously, we'd be lucky if the kid was like me. He was such a nice and cute kid." And then SIL doubles down, "No, but you're so much more handsome," before turning to look directly at me and adding, "No offense." Now, look. I wasn't deeply offended, my brother is a very good-looking guy, so I get it. But who just says that out loud? My wife, who had been quiet up to this point, clearly found it rude. So she jokingly goes, "Well, as long as the baby doesn't look like SIL, we should be fine." I chuckled, my brother laughed. SIL did not laugh. She immediately got pissed, glared at my wife, and went, "What the hell does that mean? That's extremely rude. We're not close enough for jokes like that." My wife was taken aback and so was I. My brother tried to say something but she stormed out. My brother followed her, looking about as confused as I felt. Fast forward to today, SIL has officially disinvited my wife from the baby shower celebration. My wife says she doesn't even want to go, which, fair enough. My brother is devastated and really wants me to be there. Now, here's the thing, my brother adores me. He's always been my biggest supporter, and he wants me to be a big part of my nephew's life. He's having his first child, and this moment is really important to him. I love my brother too and can't see him sad like that. He says both my wife and SIL need to apologize eventually, but we shouldn't force it right now and give them some time to cool off. He also thinks SIL owes me an apology for what she said, but again, pregnancy hormones or whatever, so he doesn't want to push it yet. My parents actually side with my wife and think SIL was out of line first. But they also believe I shouldn't miss such a huge moment in my brother's life, and that we should cut SIL some slack because of her pregnancy. Here's my issue, I don't feel right going if my wife isn't welcome. I want to support her, but I also know this moment means the world to my brother. If I go, my wife might feel abandoned. If I don't, my brother will be heartbroken. I feel completely stuck. Update, TLDR at the bottom. Thanks, everyone, for the replies. I think I read almost every single one. I really appreciated the different perspectives. First, some clarifications. My wife is not a mean person. She made a joke in the moment, although I admit that it wasn't a great joke given the sensitivity of the situation. But she's genuinely one of the kindest, most caring people I know. That's one of the reasons I love her so much. I don't think my brother did anything wrong by bringing up the topic. We were reminiscing about childhood, and he probably got nostalgic about having his little brother following him everywhere. My brother and I resemble each other quite a bit, though he's definitely the better looking one. Funny how that works. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean I'm insecure. If anything, he's the outlier, he's one of those people who naturally turns heads. Even when we were younger, he'd get random girls hitting on him wherever he went. It was such a running joke in our family that even my parents would tease him about it. The entire conversation lasted less than 5 minutes and escalated very quickly. I agree with the comments that all of us should have handled the situation better. But easier to say that in hindsight. In real time, things just got out of hand very quickly. I am sure that all of us regret what we said in the moment. Now for the actual update. I told my wife that I wouldn't go unless she was also invited. She immediately told me that she didn't want to be the reason I missed it and that I should go if I wanted to. She even said she'd be willing to apologize if my SIL was open to it, but that she wouldn't attend even if re-invited because she'd feel uncomfortable. I told her I appreciated that, but for me, it was both of us or none of us. Then I called my brother, and this is where I have to give him a lot of credit, because I know he was upset. He had really wanted me there, and I could hear the disappointment in his voice. But instead of pushing, he just said, "I get it, man. Don't worry about it." I know that wasn't easy for him to say. He had to balance keeping things calm with his wife while also wanting his brother by his side. But he didn't guilt-trip me, didn't try to convince me otherwise, he just let me make my choice. He even said, "Don't worry, we'll save you guys some food and I'll drop it off later." I offered to help with setup if he needed it, and told him to say I have COVID to avoid awkward questions. He just laughed and said, "Got it. You caught the world's shortest COVID, just long enough for the baby shower but miraculously recovered the next day." Now, here's where things got a bit more complicated. My mom was not happy with him for not sorting this out earlier. She felt like he should have stepped in and made peace before it got to the point where my wife was uninvited. But my parents didn't say anything directly because they didn't want to get involved in the drama. I think that really weighed on him. He was already trying to navigate a tough situation, and now he had our parents silently judging him too. It put him in an impossible position, trying to be a good husband, a good brother, and a good son all at once. A couple of days passed with no further drama. Then something unexpected happened. My wife got a call from my SIL. At first, my wife panicked, thinking she was about to get yelled at. But instead, they actually had a really good conversation. I overheard bits of it, including my wife saying, "No, you're gorgeous," which made me laugh a little. After the call, my wife told me that SIL actually apologized first. She admitted that she'd been feeling really self-conscious about her looks during pregnancy and that my wife's joke had hit a sore spot. A little later, my brother called me. He told me that he had gently talked to SIL and helped her see that things had gotten out of hand. He also told me that knowing my wife was willing to apologize had made a huge difference. And then, he admitted something: he had wanted to fix things before the baby shower, but he knew his wife was already under a lot of stress. He didn't want to add more pressure on her while she was in the middle of planning, and honestly, I respect that. My SIL is one of those people who needs everything to be perfect: her look, my brother's look, the house, the decorations, etc. So I can understand the pressure she must have put on herself. And my brother knew that pushing her while she was stressed wouldn't have helped, so he waited. And after the event, when things calmed down, he quietly stepped in and fixed things. So where do things stand now? Things seem good on the surface. My wife and SIL made peace, and my brother and I are fine. My wife and I have decided to just be extra sensitive around SIL given what she is going through. All in all, the situation seems to have brought us somewhat closer together. The real takeaway: I have an amazing wife, but her humor could use some work. Also, my brother ain't too bad. Side note, speaking of whom, my brother will probably never see this because he only uses Reddit for sports and news, or so he says, but in the off chance he does, well, guess I'm busted. But since I have your attention, I'll admit something just this once. You are the best bro I could have asked for. That time you helped me for uni, I don't think you know how much it really meant to me. And when I was at a really low point, you stood by me. I don't think I've ever said it, but I've always appreciated that. Of course, I won't ever admit this in person and will forever deny I ever wrote this. TLDR, my SIL uninvited my wife from her baby shower after a joke. My brother wanted me to come anyway, but I refused to go without my wife. It caused some tension, but after a few unexpected conversations, things actually worked out, and I came out of it appreciating my brother even more. Edit: everyone keeps asking why my wife didn't apologize first. I thought I made it clear in the post, but maybe not. My wife was going to apologize but wanted to check if SIL was open to it. She had just been uninvited, so we had no idea whether my SIL was even open to talking to her. I had told my brother that my wife wanted to apologize, and if he had given us the green light, my wife would have absolutely called. Instead, my SIL decided to call once my brother told her that my wife wanted to apologize. That was her being the bigger person. Stories number 29. Aita for refusing to leave my own house for a slumber party. My daughter, Liz, is turning 13 and she is having a sleepover this upcoming Friday, not tomorrow, but 8 days from now. My wife told me that one of the mothers, who we will call Christy, who I have never met, nor ever seen at any of the PTA meetings nor other school activities, is refusing to allow her daughter Opal, same age as mine, to sleep over if I am in the house. My wife said that Christy only wanted the girls and women in the house, otherwise Opal can't come. My daughter wants her friend to be there, but I feel this woman has no right to make such a demand. I am not planning on leaving 8, 12 and 13-year-old girls alone in the house with just my wife to chaperone them. My daughter thinks I am being a jerk about it and should just go away, and I think the mother, Christy, is making a demand based on nothing but her imagined fears. The text message between my wife and Christy said, "Christy, thanks for inviting Opal, who will be there? Wife, most of the girls are in Elizabeth's class, but also 2 girls from our street. C, will you be the only adult there? W, gosh no. Me and my husband will both be here to make sure they are all okay. C, I don't allow Opal to go to sleepovers with men or teenage boys in the house. Your husband can't be there." Stories number 30. Spouse cheated on me with my sibling. I truly love her and I don't know what to do, please advice. My wife shared with me that about 4 years ago on New Year's she and my brother shared a kiss and an intimate moment. I'm beside myself. Also, this same thing happened to me when I was younger, same situation but with another girl. She expressed that she feels horrible about it and didn't want to tell me because she was scared. We have gone through so much together and have a family together. I just don't know what to do. I don't trust a fucking soul anymore. The worst part is all the times we've all been together since and had good times and hung out. They knew and I'm the fool in the room. I'm confused and lost. She seems to be sleeping just fine and I'm awake all night wondering what I can do to get past this. The other part killing me is I know that if the roles were reversed she'd be gone. I guess I'm just hurt and I've been betrayed by someone who's supposed to always have your back and you're supposed to be able to trust. Please help. Stories number 31. Karen owns the parking lot. I parked with my mother in a public parking lot. This woman parked her car right behind mine, completely blocking the way. My mom and I were looking for the owner of the car to ask them to move it, but apparently, since she lives 2 blocks from the parking lot, she thinks she can park wherever she wants. She came out of her house screaming, along with her daughter and husband, both just like her. While the daughter and the woman were yelling at my mom, I flipped off the daughter, and they all exploded in rage. The daughter's father even said he was going to hit me. All of this just because apparently, no one can tell them to move their stupid, badly parked car. Was I wrong? Edit, how it ends. The father kept threatening to hit me for flipping off his daughter, which is ridiculous considering they had been insulting and trying to hit my mother. Why do you have to do that to my daughter? The father said. I said, I didn't just do it to her, I did it to all 3 of you. Meanwhile, Karen was already moving the car while still yelling. Then we left quickly. The dumbest part of this whole story is that the couple was between 40 and 50 years old, the daughter was between 25 and 30 and I'm 17. Stories number 32. A customer screamed at me once, so now I eat his favorite food. When I was a university student, I worked in a little supermarket for over a year. I was 19 at the time, and since UK minimum wages are age-based, I was making very, very little. We had a really complicated machine for printing and cashing lottery tickets, and any corrections and refunds had to be signed off by the manager who was never around when we needed him. Cashing one ticket alone took something like 15 steps, it was wild. So, for the first few weeks, I was quite slow at it in order to avoid making any mistakes. Well, on my second day there, an old guy turned up and in addition to some food, he wanted a few lottery tickets. He didn't seem to appreciate my lack of speed, and leaned into about 8 inches away from my face to scream, yes, when I tried to check if the numbers I was about to print off were correct. In retrospect, it really wasn't that big of a deal, but I was young and very small, so his screaming towering over me was enough to make me feel upset and afraid. He looked very pleased with himself for making the young girl earning a few pounds an hour tremble with fear. I'd already had a bit of retail experience under my belt from a prior job, but that day, I cried in the employee bathrooms for the very first time. The job was not great, so I was brought to tears by customers a few more times during my time there, but I was broke and a fast learner, so I was always available for overtime. I ended up working 45 to 55 hours a week, and the guy turned out to be a regular, which meant that he had absolutely known I was new, and I got to serve him often over the next year or so. Joy. I also got the hang of things, and did pretty much everything else there, from training others, keeping the refrigerator's temperature log, ordering stock, logging and clearing waste, expired items and those with a broken seal, to reducing items which had reached their sell-by date, 25% off at 9 a.m., 50% off at 12 p.m., and finally 75% off at 4 p.m. Well, one benefit was that I learned a few things about the miser who had screamed at me, like how he was nasty to everyone working there, especially the younger ladies, how he was retired and seemingly not very well off, and how he appeared to keep track of food sell-by dates, and would regularly turn up soon after certain meat-based items had been reduced for the final time. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being old or on a budget, but it's always a bad idea to scream at people just because you're having a bad day and they're not allowed to defend themselves. Especially the ones who handle your food. The other benefit was that, because I was working there full time, I was the one serving him 99% of the time, which gave me ample opportunities to deliver my petty revenge. And it was going to be a slow burn, like cooking a frog, as they say. Being a broke university student, I figured that I could both stick it to him and save myself a bit money, since food price reductions stacked with my employee discount. He never screamed at me again, but for 10 months, I hid all of his nearly expired favorites behind the dairy items, and purchased them for myself once he'd left in a huff after finding them gone. I didn't even care for sausages all that much, but I regularly ate something called toad in a hole out of sheer spite, and the vile git probably managed to buy reduced sausages maybe 5 times in 10 months. He got visibly more and more upset over time because other shoppers had seemingly caught onto his strategy. I always nodded sympathetically, sorry, we've sold the last ones. Maybe try again later in the week. I actually rather like toad in a hole now, and have it as a special revenge treat. It reminds me of that time I cooked a frog for nearly a year. Don't scream at the people who handle your food. Edit, fixed some minor errors and added a little pun because I couldn't help it. Stories number 33. Aita for telling my sister the truth about why I moved out so young. I, 27F, have a younger half-sister, Emma, 17F. We share the same mom, but different dads. Our mom had me when she was really young and struggled a lot. By the time Emma was born, she was in a much more stable marriage, so Emma had a totally different upbringing than I did. I moved out at 18 and was pretty much on my own from that point. I worked multiple jobs to pay for school and rent, while Emma has always had my mom and her dad's full support, paid extracurricular, a car at 16, and they're even covering her college tuition. I don't resent her for it, but it does make it hard for her to understand my perspective sometimes. A few days ago, I was at my mom's house visiting, and Emma made a comment about how I chose to move out early, and how she didn't get why I wasn't around more often. She said it like I just wanted to leave and be distant. I told her that it wasn't exactly a choice, that once I turned 18, I was pretty much expected to figure things out on my own. Our mom and her husband were focused on their own lives and supporting her, and I had to become independent a lot sooner. Emma got really quiet and later told my mom what I said. Now my mom is upset, saying I made it sound like she abandoned me, when in reality she was just young and struggling. She said I should have let the past go instead of making Emma feel guilty over things she had no control over. I wasn't trying to make Emma feel bad, just explain why our experiences were different. But now I'm wondering, Aita for saying anything at all. Stories number 34. She wasn't attracted to me IRL, so dated this girl virtually I guess for like 2 months. We video call, exchange photos. She's not a 10-10 but neither am I, and so I find beauty in her, who she is, our shared interests, the laughter and camaraderie. I fly out like she asked me to, 2 amazing dates, kisses, touches, laughter and smiles. The 3rd day things seem off. She says she's sick and needs to end the date early, and bam. A few minutes later the texts come in. I really can't do this anymore. Why can't I have what so many guys throw away? And I'm not asking for a supermodel, just someone genuine who likes me. It must be me, all I did was be myself and that came up short again. I'm not built for this. Edit, I've been made aware that my post contained troubling elements from commenters regarding how I disparaged others and my own love's appearance. It has made me realize that perhaps this was an inevitable result for one who is not truly ready for a relationship, and that I have room for growth and perhaps issues with my own self-esteem. Many others were sympathetic, and for that I thank you. But perhaps this is the result of my own mental state and failures. I've a responsibility to ensure that I'm ready to date, and perhaps I've failed in that regard. I don't care. Stories number 35. I, 34M, have made a huge mistake with my wife, 43F, and I need some advice. I've been doing Spanish classes for the last 6 months. There's a new teacher, 26F, I swear, I have never done any moves or anything, but I confess I'm the kind of sympathetic guy, with jokes and all that stuff. Last Thursday, out of the blue, I received an invitation to a birthday party of this teacher. I didn't have her contact, but we had a class group. I told my wife it was weird the teacher didn't invite me to the group, but anyway, I'd like to go. It would be in an alternative place, kind of a bar, kind of a dancing place. Wife, 42F, said, yes, it's strange. Hope it's not an invitation for you, and me too. The teacher's message said that was an invitation for you and your partner. She definitely knows I'm married because I've said that a couple of times in the classroom. Okay. We went. Got there, and there was the teacher, her sister, and 2 couples of friends of hers. Everybody sat at the same table, drinking and eating. Only me as her student. When I got there, I thought, fuck. The teacher said she invited other students, but nobody answered. We didn't spend much time there, and we left after the birthday song. Obviously, my wife is absolutely mad and pissed, saying I sent signals to the teacher, and she invented only me to see if she was right about me hitting on her first. I didn't agree, but I'm feeling like an idiot. Ruined the Friday night, the Saturday, and the Sunday. I said to my wife, I've never made any moves, but she used to be my teacher, and then we started to date, and now we're married. Need some advice, judgment, and words of wisdom from this wisdom group, and answers for these questions. 1. Would you forgive me in this case? 2. Is there anything I can do to fix it? Stories number 36. Aita for telling my mom no to giving her boyfriend a brownie. For context, my mom's boyfriend of 6 months has been living with us for at least 3 months now. I don't like it because he does not really help out much, doesn't pay for things, do chores around the house, etc., just sits in his room. I made brownies 2 days ago just to try out a recipe. I ate the middle piece because it's my favorite part and I jokingly sent a picture of it to my mom since it's also her favorite. She has a laugh over it. Later yesterday, her boyfriend is sick and somehow my brownies got brought up. He asks for 1 or 2 and my mom says yes, without asking me if it was alright. She comes out of her room and tells me he's getting 1 and I say no at first. She then keeps pushing me but I hold my ground. She starts yelling at me, takes a brownie, then goes back into their room telling her boyfriend how mean I was being to her. It really hurts my feelings because she didn't listen to me saying no. This morning, she walks out saying that I really hurt her feelings. I told her she also hurt my feelings and told her why I said no. She then says that she didn't raise her kid to not share. Am I the asshole for saying no to my mom's boyfriend getting a brownie? Stories number 37. It started with crumbs in the bed. Now I, 26F, resent my partner, 31M, for working from home. I, 26F, work in healthcare, meaning long shifts on my feet and over an hour of commuting each day. My partner, 31M, of 4 years is a software engineer who works from home. When I leave for work at 5:30 a.m., he's in bed. When I come home at 5:30 p.m., he's in bed. And when I finally crawl into bed at 9:30 p.m., exhausted, there are crumbs in the sheets. I've repeatedly asked him to stop eating in bed because it's gross, uncomfortable, and not great for his mental health. He agrees, says he'll stop, but he never does. The sheets have stains, and there are wrappers under the bed. He denies eating in bed, but the evidence is right there. The tipping point was the other night. I asked him to get out of bed so we could change the sheets because there was salsa verde smeared with chips in the bed. He said he was too tired and was just going to sleep. It was 8 p.m. Did I really have to beg for him to get out of bed so I could clean up his mess that I was clearly upset about? At first, it was just annoying. Now, it's turned into something bigger. I can't ignore the growing resentment I feel, not just about the crumbs, but about our entire dynamic. I work way harder, make way less, and come home to see him having spent the entire day in the same spot. He has an hour-long lunch break every day and doesn't use that time to do any chores. I know it's not fair to compare jobs, but it's hard not to feel frustrated when my life feels so much more exhausting. I try to be understanding, he has ADHD, and I know hyper-focus can be a barrier. But I'm struggling. I feel unheard, and the resentment is building. How do I get him to take this seriously? How do I bring this up in a way that actually leads to change? Is it unfair for me to expect him to pick up slack while working from home because that's what I would do in his position? Update: I made this unclear in the post, but he isn't sleeping in bed all day. He is working from 9:30-5 from bed all day. He has a nice desk set up, but doesn't use it. 2. He is my person and shows up for me in other ways, very romantic, words of affirmation, dance in the kitchen sort of love. Which makes it hard. Is this him being a slob? Is this mental illness? How can we move forward with this? 3. We both have depression and are on meds. He is also on medication for ADHD. Stories number 38. My girlfriend hid that she still texts her ex as a friend. So, I, 20M, have been dating my girlfriend, 23F, for about 6 months. Everything has been great, but last night, I accidentally saw a notification pop up on her phone from her ex. They dated for 4 years and broke up about a year ago. I didn't go through her phone, but I asked her about it, and she got super defensive, saying they're just friends, and that she didn't tell me because she knew I'd make a big deal out of it. I tried to stay calm and just asked why she felt the need to hide it. She said she didn't hide it, she just didn't mention it, which feels like the same thing. I asked to see the messages, not because I don't trust her, but because the way she reacted made me feel weird. She refused and told me I was being paranoid. Now, I don't think she's cheating, but the fact that she kept this from me and then refused to show me the messages makes me feel like I should be suspicious. I told her it's not about the messages themselves but about the secrecy, and she said, if you trusted me, this wouldn't be an issue. Am I overreacting, or is this a red flag? Update. Hey everyone, I wanted to give an update since my original post got way more attention than I expected. So my girlfriend and I sat down to talk. She admitted that she got defensive because she knew how it looked and panicked. She swore she wasn't hiding anything from me and she just didn't think it was a big deal since they only talk occasionally, and she didn't want to stir up drama over nothing. I told her that for me, the issue wasn't that she talks to her ex but it was that she hid it and then got weird when I asked about it. She agreed that she handled it poorly and apologized for making me feel like I was overreacting. To ease my mind, she even let me go through their messages with her sitting next to me. And honestly, it was exactly what she said, just casual, friendly conversations, nothing flirty or inappropriate. I still don't love that she kept it from me, but I appreciate that she owned up to it and was willing to be transparent. We agreed to work on communicating better moving forward. So, no dramatic breakup or cheating scandal, just an awkward situation that turned into a much-needed conversation. Update. So much has happened in just one day. About over an hour ago, my girlfriend came over, crying, and came clean about everything with her ex. She told me that nothing explicit ever happened, but she admitted that she still has feelings for him and misses him. She said she needs time to think about everything, and in between tears, she just kept apologizing to me and asking for forgiveness. I don't even know what to do right now, I just have this pit in my stomach and just feel completely lost. We've been through a lot together, and I feel way too attached and love her to just have things end like that. But also, knowing she still has feelings for her ex makes me feel like I wasn't enough for her, like no matter what I did, it couldn't measure up. I don't know how to move forward from this. Stories number 39. Aita for ghosting my date after the sleeping with her. Hi, I'm Rick, 22M, so I was dating Marie, 21F, she is pretty and funny and overall seemed like a nice girl so I saw it going far, I only date with the intention of long-term relation. So after the second date we went to my residence and we had wine and all watched some movies and slept together. We had a good time and she seemed to enjoy it well, but after that night she kept making the joke of how small I am down there. It started as a joke but literally kept on it, then she moved on to tell how she had much bigger ones and dated guys much taller than I am. I'm 5'10" in height and around 5.5 down there. I wasn't insecure about it and laughed it off every time, but this is disrespect and I knew I'm not gonna put up with it. So after I dropped her home I didn't show much interest for third date while she was sure of it. I slowly started ghosting until one day she came to my house and when I told her I'm not that interested in her anymore and reason for it. She got all teary and started shouting that I just wanted to sleep with her. She bashed out of the door slamming it behind. Well, I'm writing just few hours after this and I know what I did and stand strongly with it, but still a thought lingers if what I did was right or I overreacted. Stories number 40. Aita for missing my daughter's birth. I, 21M, am in the Navy, and I missed the birth of my daughter because I was deployed. It wasn't by choice. I put in a leave request, but it was denied. My fiancée, 22F, and I knew this could happen, and she always told me she understood. But knowing it might happen didn't make it any easier when it actually did. I hated not being there. I checked in whenever I could, but it wasn't the same. She went through labor without me. She struggled with postpartum depression. She told me she felt alone, even though she had family around. She had breakdowns in the middle of the night, felt disconnected from our daughter, and at one point even questioned if she was a good mother. And I wasn't there to help her through any of it. When I finally got home, my daughter was 2 months old. Holding her for the first time was overwhelming, and my fiancée hugged me and said she was just glad I was home. But I can tell that everything she went through changed her. She's been more quiet, more tired, and while she reassures me she's okay, I can't shake the guilt that she had to go through all of that alone. I love my fiancé and my daughter more than anything, and I hate that I wasn't there for them. But I also had no control over it. I can't just leave the Navy, and this is how I provide for them. I feel like I let her down even though I know I couldn't have done anything differently. Stories number 41. Newlywed sex is uncomfortable for my wife, 30F, 30M, first-timers, feeling lost and need advice. Hi everyone, my wife, 30F, and I, 30M, are newlyweds of 3 months and we're running into a really frustrating and honestly, sad situation with our sex life. We're both virgins before marriage, so everything is new for us, and we're really trying to navigate this together, but we're feeling lost and could really use some advice or to hear if anyone else has experienced something similar. Basically, foreplay is great. We enjoy it, kissing, touching, and I can definitely get her aroused and to a point of pleasure with manual clitoral stimulation. She enjoys that a lot. However, when we try to have intercourse, penetration, it's been really difficult for her from day one. At first, she described the feeling like someone sticking a finger in your eye, very unpleasant, not painful exactly, but just, wrong feeling. After many attempts, she can now let me insert, and physically penetration is actually easy, there's no blockage or anything stopping me from entering. I can get inside, but she says it's still very uncomfortable, still unpleasant, and she just wants it to be over quickly. She gets really tense as she says, and often stops me with her hand when I try to go in. If I manage to get in a bit, and try to go deeper, she says, enough, too much, and we have to stop. It's been like this for 3 months now, every time we try. We use plenty of lube, we do foreplay, she wants to enjoy this, but her body just doesn't seem to cooperate. For me, honestly, I don't feel much either when I am inside. It feels loose. I don't really feel any tightness or sensation, and sometimes I can't even tell if I'm really in or not. I don't know what's normal as a first-timer myself. What's even more concerning is that even if I try to just insert a finger gently, she gets anxious and asks, "What are you doing?" and tenses up even then. We're both really sad about this. We want to have a healthy and fulfilling sex life together, but penetration feels like a huge obstacle right now. We are both first-timers and don't know what's normal or what to expect. Has anyone else experienced something similar? Does anyone have any advice or resources? We are thinking about seeking professional help, but we don't even know what kind of doctor or therapist would be best to see for this. Any recommendations for types of specialists to look for would be incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for any advice you can offer. We really appreciate it. TLDR, newlywed wife, 30F, finds penetration very uncomfortable, unpleasant sensation, not always painful, despite foreplay and lube. Seeking advice, similar experiences, and recommendations for professional help, type of doctor therapist to see. Stories number 42. Guy tried to scam me in Rome, so I threw his scam product in an inconvenient location. When I was in Rome we had read about these scams people do. One of which was trying to give you free stuff but guilt-tripping you into giving them something, usually money, in return. At one point this happened, my whole group, who I had informed about this, fell for it. I declined to take a bracelet. Basically guy comes up and asks where we are from. When you tell him, he makes some random ass connection between there and where he is from and claims you're family. Then offered to give you something from his family, and then ties these bracelets in your arm which are hard to get off. Then he asks if you have anything for his family. Holding his hand out, my son then proceeds to hand this man $20. This is what it is. He was fine with it. This wasn't the issue. This was just me having seen this scam in process, and now I was aware of how it worked in more detail. Also we found these same identical bracelets at a small shop like 10 minutes later for about $0.30. The petty part. So the next day I'm by myself walking by the Colosseum and one of these guys asks me where I am from. Knowing that he's going to try and make a connection, I say that I'm from the moon. He's caught off guard but continues his pitch anyway. I tell him I'm not interested. But he stays nagging me. I tell him over and over I'm not interested, but he keeps harassing me. So finally I stop and I'm like, what is it? He says, I want to give you something from my family to yours bro, that's it. And I say, for free, and he says, yeah, free from my family to yours. And so I'm feeling petty cause he's been harassing me. I take the bracelet and say thanks and immediately turn and abruptly start walking. He dashes to catch up to me and is like, yo bro, you got anything for my family? And I say, no man, sorry, and continue walking. He then grabs me by the shoulder and looks me dead in the eye and says, give it back, and I'm like, what? He says, give it back, again more stern. The sales pitch nice guy voice is no more. So I was like, this bracelet? Which I was holding and not wearing, and he holds out his hand. I say, this is mine. You gave it to me. He says, no, it's not free. I then reminded him that he specifically said, free from his family. He then tries to cut me off as I'm about to cross the street. He starts swearing at me. So I take his bracelet and huck it down a 20-foot drop to the ground level of the area outside the Colosseum. He could still go get it. But he would have to walk all the way around the ramp and far away from me. He then starts swearing at me. Fuck you over and over. He then hawks like he's going to spit on me and I tell him that's a very bad idea. Finally he turns and walks away. TLDR. Guy tried to scam me and give me a free bracelet. Then wanting money from me. I refused and was going to keep the bracelet. He demanded it back. I threw it over a railing. Stories number 43. I just realized why there are so many men angry at women for having standards. Another Redditor posted, why would anyone be with someone they are not attracted to? A man that is 2 or 10 in looks are still attracted to same women. And this literally opened my eyes. Another Redditor responded, what it really boils down to is ugly men are angry they can't get hot women and look, of course they want them. But it's common sense, of course they, an ugly person, can't get a hot person in all likelihood. No different than the reverse, ugly women can't pull hot men. The choice is either accept being alone, work on improving your attractiveness, or seek other qualities in people, pursue people in your league. That being said, if ugly guys want to shoot their shot with hot women over and over they certainly can, just don't get angry when it doesn't work out. It's like buying a lottery ticket and being in a rage you don't win. My brother who is an incel complains about loneliness and not being able to get women and complains only whales message him on dating app. It is not that men who are lonely can't get women, they can't get the women they want. Looks wise. From a male Redditor, I think women should choose to not be shallow. But they want, so the only recourse is revenge. That's why I became an oil lobbyist. This world should burn and I have no incentive not to pursue that. Response. This is only something someone shallow would say. If you yourself were not shallow, why would it matter if women were shallow? Why not pick an ugly chick with a 10-10 personality? Because you are unattractive and you want hot women to not be shallow and choose you, while you maintain your shallow standards for your partner. Why don't you choose to not be shallow? This is the other reason. I think this misses a rather problematic fact about humans in general. Almost invariably they think that they're better than they are. So a guy who is a 2 thinks he is 6 or a 7. He's asking out women who are equivalent in his mind that think they're 9s and 10s. I mean, a little while back there was a post on here where a huge number of people seemed to legitimately believe they could win a fight with a bear. Stories number 44. Not really revenge, more like an F you to a mom shaming her daughter in public. I was riding a golf cart shuttle to the dining areas at a resort. There was a young lady and her mother sitting in front of me, so I could hear their conversation even though mom was quiet. She knew she was being a bitch. Dao was maybe 18 or 19 years, petite, pretty girl. Her mom complained the whole ride, 5 minutes, about her dress being too short, her being too small, and a variety of shaming body shit. I wanted to compliment the girl on her beautiful dress to maybe help her feel better and shame her mother. They hopped off before me and I was bummed I never got to say anything. After gathering my food, I saw the young lady walk by with her mom. So I stopped them and just gush over her dress and her overall beautiful appearance and glared at mom while walking away. So happy I ran into them again. Stories number 45. My 26F partner, 30M, overstimulates me on purpose and it's very frustrating. Some context. First of all, I have an anxiety disorder. I don't get easily overstimulated, it's not something that disrupts my day-to-day life, but it happens sometimes. I've been with my partner for 7 years, and we've had that conversation many times. I've learned to pick up the signs that I'm getting overwhelmed and adjust accordingly. We live in a tiny studio apartment, meaning there's only one room plus the bathroom. It's impossible for me to have alone time at home. He's studying remotely, so he's here all the time and hardly leaves the house. He does get time alone though, since I work outside the house and spend time at least a couple times a week hanging out with friends. Now, to what happened yesterday evening. I came home after running some errands and expressed I was tired. I had dinner and put my pajamas and sat with him and chatted for a while. Then I told him I was starting to feel drowsy and wanted to just relax for a bit and check something on my phone in silence before going to sleep. He kept calling my name and talking to me, nothing important, just messing with me. Again I told him to please let me decompress. He kept doing the same and laughing at my attempts of expressing how frustrated I was getting. When I was already extremely agitated and anxious, he stopped and started apologizing. I calmly asked him for some space since I was severely overstimulated, and he kept trying to hug me and acting all sad when I moved away. Kept asking me not to hate him. At that point I just told him straight away, you overstimulate the hell out of me on purpose and then act offended because I need space to calm down again. I don't know how to explain it to him. I know he doesn't have bad intentions, but it's very frustrating to have my needs ignored. Also the, please don't hate me, thing rubs me the wrong way, almost like I'm made to be the bad guy in the situation. Any advice on this? Stories number 46. How do I stop being resentful towards women? I know this might come across as incel-coded, but I've been struggling with feelings of bitterness and resentment lately, and I could use some advice. I'm 23, and my love life is pretty much non-existent. I date, I put myself out there, but nothing ever turns into something serious. The constant rejection has started to take a toll on me emotionally, and I'm feeling jaded. I've got a group of guy friends that I've known since high school. There's 5 of us. While I'm getting ghosted and rejected, they have no trouble at all. They're the stereotypical toxic guys, cheating on their girlfriends, lying to women, and still having women chase them. I've watched this happen for years. My friends constantly clown me about my lack of success with women, and at this point, I don't even tell them when I get rejected because I know they'll laugh and ask me, why is it so hard for you to get bitches? They've tried to set me up with girls who are interested in them, but it's always the same. The girl will turn me down but go for one of my friends who has no interest in her. It's frustrating and it feels like girls have backwards logic. They'll literally tell the girl that I'll take them serious and I'm not the type of guy that talks to multiple people at once. Here's the thing, I don't understand the logic. I've never been attracted to women who treat me poorly, and I've never chased anyone who was emotionally unavailable and made it clear they're not interested. I don't get how women can be so drawn to men who treat them like garbage while turning down someone who's genuinely interested and willing to put in the effort. It feels like everything I hear is the same advice: just be yourself, keep trying, you'll find someone eventually. But at this point, it's hard to stay hopeful after so many years of feeling overlooked. I don't want to be bitter and resentful, but I'm struggling. How can I stop feeling like this, and how do I navigate these emotions? Stories number 47. Aita for being okay with my GF cheating on me. I am 55, have been with my girlfriend, F45, for 3 months. Prior to us meeting, she was on the road traveling with professional athletic teams doing physical therapy and sports medicine. There were times when she would engage with these athletes beyond what was medicinal in nature, and so she eventually left the industry for a more sane and normal kind of life. She looks good, she's fun to be around, and an overall likable woman with somewhat of a less than desirable past. But I didn't hold any of that against her. Recently she got an opportunity to go back on the road for 2 to 3 weeks and it was paying a ton of money, so she took it. Unfortunately she ended up having an incident with a former fling of hers and started to revert back into her old ways. I found out about it because someone else who was part of the team management snitched on her. I thanked them for the call and just waited until she got back home before discussing it. When she got back, the first thing she said was, "I have something to tell you and I didn't mean for it to happen, but," and right then and there she spilled her guts. I said, "Yeah. I found out about it while you were away. I know this was your life before you met me, so I'm not too terribly upset. Granted, I'm not thrilled by what happened, but you told me who you were on day one and so it's not a big surprise. We're good." Suddenly that remorseful apologetic woman turned into someone angry and resentful, saying, "WTF, do you mean we're good? You're just okay with it just like that? You really expected me to mess up? Is that what's going on here? Some nerve. What do you think I am? So should I have not been okay with what happened? Did I forgive too easily? Was I supposed to pretend that there was a problem? Or Aita because it wasn't a problem?" Stories number 48. Aita for telling my mom I don't owe it to her to put her first when she never put me first in 18 years. I, 18M, have a very strained relationship with my mom, 40F. I never knew who my dad was. She had no name for him or any idea who he really was. I did try to find him a few months ago with the help of some friends using Ancestry and 23andMe, but it brought no results for my dad. That's something I've moved on from since I can't do anything more. But back to my mom. She was more focused on herself and finding love than being a parent. In the time I lived with her she had numerous live-in boyfriends, husbands, and fiancés, and she exposed me to angry children and exes who didn't like our presence in their lives. I never had a good experience with these families. Over the years I have been punched in the face by older kids, shot with a BB gun, a dart gun and some kind of rock gun, pushed out of a tree house, slapped across the face, spat on, clawed at, threatened with a knife, had a door slammed on my hand and kicked over and over again in the stomach and chest. I was also called a bastard, a retard, a freak, and bullied by some of these kids in and out of school. Sometimes even after the relationship broke down they'd still target me. I had some of the guys' exes call me a little shit and insist I wasn't allowed to sit near them or their children. My mom never cared. The way I was treated was never the reason these relationships ended. Either someone cheated or they fought a lot about sex or money or custody issues. Some of the guys were okay to me. Others ignored me. For years I still loved my mom and often thought she could do better. I'd be a shoulder for her to lean on after a breakup. Even if I was black and blue from that ex's kids, I'd be there for her. But time and time again she overlooked how I was treated and went ahead with what she wanted. There were times I talked to her and she didn't even bother listening. I went to stay with my best friend a few days before my 18th birthday and I just didn't go back. Then I officially changed my address after my birthday and carried on with my life. My mom was living with her third husband at the time. But now her marriage has broken up and she wanted to move in with me. I told her she wasn't moving in and she needed to figure this stuff out on her own. She told me that's no way to speak to her, she's my mom, etc. When I didn't give in, she said I owe it to her to put her first right now and take care of her because she needs it. I ended the call and I texted her that I don't owe her that when she never put me first in 18 years. I went into all the reasons why she failed as a mom and why she had some fucking nerve asking me to take care of her and put her first. She told me I had no idea what life was like for her and how hard being a single mom is, and being grateful to her for giving me life would be a start. Stories number 49. Girlfriend, 22F, has tickets for a music festival with her ex, 30M. Am I, 23M, controlling for not wanting her to go? Please read the post before commenting, as there are some details that mitigate the situation from her side. My girlfriend, 22F, and I, 23M, started dating about 6 months ago. So far it's probably the best relationship I've ever been in. She works in a creative but laborious and low-paying industry, film, while I am studying law. I really love her carefree and creative spirit. It's one of the things that first attracted me to her, as I am definitely on the more logical, cautious end of the spectrum, but right now it's giving me a lot of grief. About a month before we started dating, my girlfriend bought tickets to a music festival with her ex that's taking place in about 6 weeks. They were broken up at the time, but have remained close friends. The ex also works in film and they've collaborated on some projects together since. From what I know, wanting to continue collaborating was a big reason why they stayed friends after breaking up. Now that we are pretty serious, I think my girlfriend should no longer be attending this festival with another guy she used to sleep with. The ex is single. My girlfriend will be flying to a European country. Her mother's side of the family and the ex are both from there, and the two of them will be driving to the music festival from her family's home, camping together for 3 days, and probably consuming copious amounts of liquor. I asked her if they will take drugs together. She's not a prolific drug user, but does party drugs like ecstasy occasionally to blow off steam, especially when she's traveling to her family's country, and she said she isn't sure, but it's possible. My girlfriend maintains she wouldn't have bought the tickets if she and I had been dating at the time, but that she was single when she went in for them. Now that she has the tickets, she doesn't want to back out, because they cost her about $500. She covered her ex's ticket as well because she owed him a similar amount of money to the cost of the ticket, and she doesn't want to watch that money go to waste. I can understand that because she doesn't make a lot and doesn't get to treat herself to things often, so $500 does seem like a lot of money to her, but I think she should put our relationship first. To her credit, she's been open about the festival since we've really become committed, about a month or two into dating, and suggested that I come with them, but when we went to the site to buy a ticket for me, the festival had already closed. She also maintains that she is no longer attracted to the ex. I know this sounds strange, but I honestly believe her on that front hair is extremely important to her, to the extent that she jokingly limits what I'm allowed to do with my hair, not that I change it up that much anyway, and she has instantaneously lost attraction to celebrities' other guys based on a change in hairstyle. This ex is notorious for doing extremely weird things to his hair. He is now sporting a sort of slick back with long sideburns and a handlebar mustache. It's objectively a terrible look, and she's laughed about it with me. Like I said, my girlfriend is a free spirit. She's very monogamous, but has quite a bohemian European outlook on things. Her father is American, and she often laughs about the cultural gap between her father and mother and how old-fashioned Americans are. I think her different cultural background and the fact she works in a creative, laid-back environment, while I had a pretty classic suburban American upbringing and have always wanted to work in law, a strict, white-collar profession, maybe playing a role in our outlooks here. Still, even though I trust her, and even though I know she's probably not attracted to him anymore, I can't shake the images in my head of them stumbling back to the tent, drunk or on drugs, and one thing leading to another. When she first mentioned the festival to me, I told her it was okay, but now that the festival is drawing closer and I begin to find myself really falling for her, it's seriously starting to gnaw at me, and I don't think I'll be able to even sleep during the 3 days she's camping with him. Is an ultimatum in order here? Stories number 50. Changing lanes in my life. For about 4 years, I have been saving to have some plastic surgery. A mommy makeover. Perkier boobs, tummy tuck to get rid of the loose skin and stretch marks I have left from bearing 3 children. Money has just been taken out of my account into a separate fund. There is now about $30,000 in there. Enough to book the surgeries I wanted. I went and had a consultation with a plastic surgeon yesterday. As I talked with him about nipping here and tucking there and putting things back where they were before children, I just had this moment where I felt kind of outside of myself looking in. And there was a little voice telling me, how is this going to serve your life? And I realized, it won't. Perky boobs and a flat stomach just don't seem that important anymore. Maybe because I've been in therapy the last few years. Maybe it's because I've gotten older and more comfortable in my skin. I was driving away from that appointment, and I was driving by the university where I got my nursing degree. On impulse I pulled over. I went into the admissions office. I made inquiries about the master's program. Got some information and then drove home. So this morning, I went online and applied. I've decided that the $30,000 is now going to go towards furthering my education and personal growth. And I feel so at peace with it. Better than I felt in a long time. I don't believe in God or fate or anything like that, but there's definitely that tingling feeling right now of maybe this is the way it was supposed to be all along. I thought I needed to fix my body, but now I think my body is just fine, and I would rather grow my mind and my career. Life works in mysterious ways. Stories number 51. Aita for letting my son cook and getting him burned. I, 29M, have a 7-year-old son. He stays with me every other weekend, and lately, he's been really interested in cooking. He always asks to help, so I've been teaching him small things while making sure he understands safety. Last weekend, we were making pasta together. I showed him how to stir the sauce and explained how dangerous boiling water can be. He was excited, but I was watching him closely. At one point, I had to use the bathroom, so I told him to step away from the stove and go watch TV until I got back. I was only gone for a couple of minutes. When I came back, I heard him scream. I ran into the kitchen and saw that he had knocked the pot of boiling water onto his arm. I panicked but stayed as calm as I could, got his arm under cold water, and rushed him to the ER. He ended up with mild to moderate burns, but thankfully, the doctor said he'll heal fine. His mom was furious when I told her. She said I was irresponsible for letting him near the stove at all and that I should never have left him alone in the kitchen. Now she's saying she doesn't trust me to keep him safe and is even threatening to change our custody arrangement. I feel bad that he got hurt, but at the same time, I don't feel guilty for trying to teach him responsibility. I told him to watch TV until I got back, so it was his choice to go back to the kitchen. He's learned his lesson about why I gave him that rule, and he even told me he won't do it again. Stories number 52. Purring together. A cat showed up on our porch Thanksgiving night, 2018, crying and hungry, with a fresh side space scar and a tipped ear. We gave her a can of tuna. She ate it but was too scared to let us close. She hung around and we left out food for her. Gradually, she got closer and started trusting us. One day she came running up to me after a fight, her face a mess of scabs, covered in fleas. She let me take her to the vet and finally started sleeping in the house. All these years later, she's always in the room with me, snuggled on her own heating pad, and between work calls, I can walk over and lay my head on her side. She instantly begins purring and it makes us both so happy that this is her life now. Stories number 53. My ex-girlfriend 23F cheated on me 23M in 2023 but I took her back. So in 2023 my now ex-girlfriend 23F cheated on me 23M with a guy who's 32M and when it happened I was angry and disappointed but stupidly I took her back because I genuinely did love her and now fast forward to 2024 she broke up with me and within a week she was seeing the guy she cheated on me with and now they are in a happy relationship and since we've been split up I can't stop thinking about her and for some reason I can only remember the good times. It's been 4 months since we broke up and since then I've been trying to keep my mind positive by going to the gym trying to finish college and working but that happy mentality keeps crumbling and I have days where I can't be bothered with anything or anyone. I'm just wondering how long does this crappy feeling last and what did you guys do to pull yourself out of the dumps? Thank you for reading.